I'll put a hat on. Oh, I had myself muted.
To the public. I got a Gmail account when I was like 11 years old from a friend who had an invite to the beta test. So he sent me one. So my Gmail is literally my last name. No modifiers or anything.
Oh, wow.
What's going on, everybody? Jevon's live right now, so we're just watching her stream.
No, Marcel. No one showed up.
Oh, I muted it. I muted it.
He's too afraid of this love. He can't handle our love.
I asked that question and then
open arms to
they
embrace
joined here,
you.
so I didn't get the answer. So nobody, so
are.
Snappy didn't show up. Okay.
Oh yeah. Well, I just saw that Dr. Till was on there, so I was like, oh shit. Okay, let's see what's going on.
But like
Yeah. I think
kind of way.
I think
Yeah.
I only heard like 2 seconds of it, but I think she's doing some MK Ultra type stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or some MK Ultra talk, but Jevon's really into the Jevon's really into the MK Ultra shit. I'm not sure I agree with how much she thinks it's spread or how far back it goes, but at least she's doing something she likes, right?
Hell yeah.
Love each other and
like she said, she wants to read the Egyptian Book of the Dead with the eyes of MK Ultra, which I'm not sure.
Language.
I'm not sure what validity that's going to have.
You know, I didn't even recognize her at first.
Yeah, she's lost a bunch of weight.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, if somebody told me that this was Jevon, I would have been like, no. I didn't recognize it at all.
Yeah.
Okay. What was that privilege Exactly.
Hello, did Dr. Strasston?
See, what is that?
Melodoxatrin.
That's that one vegetable that's got the lines on it. Monosodium, because you don't want plural sodium. That's too much sodium. You just want the one. Glutamate.
What is that?
That's
MSG.
Gluten's best friend.
Monosodium glutamate is MSG.
It's glue.
Gluten. It's gluten's wife, actually.
It's glue.
Citric acid, so you can make sure that your stomach lining
stays fresh.
I thought he said glutamine. I don't know why they put glutamine in Doritos or whatever that is.
Cheddar and blue cheese. Ooh, that's new. Yellow 5.
There you go.
Oh, how's hilarious.
Right there.
Next one just says lake.
Lake.
There's a lake in here?
Yeah, that's what's coming out your ass.
Lake. I think it's leak.
So makes it so you don't have to use so much toilet paper later,
Angel, if you do some statistics, I would love to talk about that.
Yeah.
You got some. What is that?
Oh well. All right. So what's been going on, bro?
Oh, not much. I've been looking into moving in with my friend and stuff, so that's pretty good. And sign up for like some income support and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you think you're gonna move in?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm gonna wait for her to get back to me. She's probably asleep right now, but she didn't think because like she's only leasing the house. She was thinking because she didn't own the house that she couldn't sign off on the rent thing because she's got to sign off to how much rent she's charging me and stuff, so the government knows how much money to give me and things. But because she's on the lease, she can still do it. Like her name is on the lease, right? So she can still sign off.
Yeah, I mean, she can sublet it to you a room, unless there's some clause saying that she can't do that. Sometimes they have that.
Yeah, no, she could do it. She just didn't. She just thought the owner of the house had to sign off to the government about how much rent I'm paying, but she would technically be my landlord because she's on the lease subletting to me. So like that's how that works.
When do you think you do that?
Well, it takes about a month to get the process started, so probably I don't know, probably soon. She'd probably let me move in there like right now. I spend like 3 or 4 days at her house a week anyway, so like it's not that big of a deal.
She doesn't have a roommate?
She does, but well, a boyfriend and girlfriend were living there, but the boyfriend doesn't work. So the girlfriend just moved out to Alberta to work for 8 months so she could pay for him to live. I don't understand that, but I don't want to use anyone's name. Shut up. I was just said her name. But they don't want they're really like they've got the house basically taken over. Like they act like it's their house when she's the one on the lease and she's just renting them a room. They've got like the whole living room rearranged, and like my friend basically just stays up in her room and never leaves it because it's a long story.
No, I definitely have been in situations like that where the people that are in the house have kind of taken it over, or they demolish the kitchen.
Yeah, well, no, they've just got the whole thing. They've just rearranged the living room from the way she had it, and like they just sleep on her couch, and they've got this really old dog, so like everything's got to be done for comfort of their dog, and like she pays the most rent. Like they only pay like 1/3 of the cost of the rent, but they're acting like they own the place, right?
Yeah, I know. I know what you mean, and they're sort of over. They're sort of overstaying, even though they're paying rent. They're sort of
they're overstepping their boundaries.
Yeah. Well,
like I was there for a couple of days, and they were like, "Why is this guy here?" Blah blah blah. It's like, well, like I'm allowed to have friends over. Like, I don't know. It's just weird.
Right, and she's the primary.
Yeah, she's the one on the lease. She's also paying twice as much rent as them or something.
Yeah, that fucking sucks. So I've rented rooms from guys, and the only thing that I occupied was my room and maybe a little bit of the bathroom. That would not be a bathroom.
Yeah, and the room they have has their own bathroom.
Oh man. So yeah, they've just completely taken over.
So like it's crazy. Like they just use like she doesn't leave. Like my friend doesn't leave her bedroom. Now she has now the floor that she's on. Like they're on the bottom floor where the main kitchen and living room is. But she's upstairs on her floor with a bathroom and stuff. But she never uses the main floor of the house now, because they've just got the main floor of the house taken over. And then there's an attic at the top floor, which is where we hang out. We just go all the way up to the attic, and we got like a little cozy bed thing made there. We just chill up in the attic and drink and watch movies and stuff. But it's a bit much, man.
And that's where you've been that's where you've been when you go hang out for a little while. You go.
Yeah. We just go chill in the attic and yeah.
Yeah, because I won't hear from you for a few days, and it's like, oh, what up?
Yeah, I brought my laptop this time in case I needed to jump on or anything.
Yeah, I feel you, man, for sure. Well,
but yeah, it's good fun. She's got a lot of business stuff going on too. Like she's gonna lose her. She's got a brewery. Her and her friend, like a craft beer place, but the building that the craft beer store is in is being demolished next year, so they've only got a year left for that, and they don't want her partner doesn't want to reopen it in a new place, and she also owns a delicatessen, like a sandwich shop, which is like right next door to it, and she's got to like basically get that up and running properly, but like there's just a lot of stress involved, and she's struggling with some substances and stuff like that. So there's a lot on the plate, but things are looking up.
Hell yeah. I'm looking at some videos.
I use the bathroom, dude. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. All right, let's see what we got going on. I could give a shit about politics.
Doing here is approaching it just like any other aspect of human behavior. We're going to start off examining the behavior, and then we're just kind of mixing all the buckets together with a little bit of hormones, but a lot of brain stuff. And then with a semblance of familiar structure, we are going to stagger to genes, ecology, and evolution at the end. Now, right off the bat, I need to emphasize in talking about the biological bases of religious behavior, we're going to be looking at some of it in the context of certain neuropsychiatric disorders. What am I saying? I don't know, you'll see, but what I am definitely not saying is that religious belief is psychiatrically suspect, anything like that. And throughout, keep in mind that while looking at all sorts of features of the biology of religious belief, there's just as much biology going on with people who are incapable of religious belief, who have lost it. And it's simply, there's a whole lot more religious people than unreligious ones. So
This is true. And this is the one thing that I talk about with having these conversations with people that knock on your door or in front of gas stations giving out pamphlets to come to their church, is that there's actually more people that believe in a higher being than people that don't. And so this becomes very difficult, where we're in a universe where you can believe in the Bible and you get no real criticism, either from academia or, non-academic, people. You're allowed to be a president of the United States. You're allowed to be a teacher, and you're allowed to believe in something completely insane. And it's the actual literal belief of the different stories from any religious text, whether it be ancient Greece, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, any of it. Nothing happens on a daily basis. Nothing has happened. No one has ever witnessed or seen anything that would constitute like divine intervention. There's some really crazy coincidences that happen, but you're allowed to believe in something completely insane, and it doesn't affect you at all, or it shouldn't, at least. If you're going for if you're running for public office and you are a Christian, it might not appeal to the people that you are trying to campaign to, but it also might. And even if you don't agree with, like, let's say a Christian or a Muslim guy that's running for public office, even if you don't agree with his religion, you might believe in another fantasy religion that's just as silly as that guy's religion. But out of respect for people that are religious, you usually extend the same respect back to them. And it's almost as if y'all both are in your own secret clubs. And even though it's just make-believe, you still kind of give the wink to each other. But anyway, let's keep going. This guy's way smarter than I'll ever be.
Know much more about it. Okay, so we start off with behavior, and right beginning there, we see the absurdity of talking about religious behavior, so much so that we're going to be done with the topic in mere seconds because of the variability It's been estimated there's more than 10,000 different religious traditions that have been invented on this planet, about 6,000 languages, so that gives you a sense of that ratio. So there's all these different forms of religion, and then there's people who are spiritual but not religious. And then, surprisingly, there's heterogeneity among people who are atheists, and different ones who are atheists, but they're really like whatever. Apatheists is the term given for it. All sorts of, whether people get to their atheism through intellectual processes or emotional ones, all sorts of subtypes of atheism. So everything we're looking at here is going to be ridiculously smoothed out in terms of.
One thing about atheism that I cannot stand is atheists, no matter how advanced they get in academia, if you're an atheist, it's still the same arguments that the middle schoolers in 7th grade wearing the black clothing at school. It's still the same argument, both direct, like, you know, no matter how educated you get when it comes to atheism. Now, it's the same, you know, this is impossible. What you're believing in is fantasy. An atheist, though, in my experience, it almost seems like it's just the anti-Christianity, the anti-conforming to be the good Christian young man. That just in general seems to be where a lot of my friends' atheism sort of came, you know, spawned out of. But let's keep going.
This is one of the more variable outposts of human culture. Now, a theme I already said that's going to run through much of this lecture is, in lots of instances, in some thoroughly fascinating ones, religion offers sanctuary to people who otherwise would be peripheralized, troubled, impaired in their daily functioning because of some sort of neuropsychiatric disorder. And that what religion repeatedly does is not only give them sanctuary and protection, but incorporates whatever their problems are into the religious practices. So we start off, the very first one takes us back to our last lecture, what we were left with at the end, schizophrenia. And at the end, we got to the evolution of schizophrenia. No other species has anything that looks like it. And are there any downsides to it? Yeah, decreased reproductive success, shortened lifespan. Are there any upsides evolutionarily? Some indication that individuals with schizophrenia have a lower risk of cancer. But what I noted at the end is there may be one major advantage evolutionarily floating around here. And it doesn't have to do with schizophrenia, but something related to it, which takes us back to this whole world of medical genetics, where a full-blown version of some sort of genetic disorder is a disaster, homozygotic. And a partial version, heterozygotic, is actually advantageous. And the textbook example, sickle cell anemia, full-blown version, blood disease that is a disaster, partial resistance to malaria, a whole bunch of these. And there's a possibility that schizophrenia and its evolution can be thought of in that context. Now, this goes back to that classic work by Seymour Ketty, trotting this out the third time, though. This was the adoption study that they did with every case in Denmark, whatever Scandinavian country they wound up in, looking at whether there was or wasn't schizophrenia in the adoptive family and the biological. And we know this whole thing. And the number 9 was the first screaming evidence of a genetic component to schizophrenia. All you've gotten from your biological mother is genes. We know that's not really the case, but nonetheless, this being a whopping big vote for a biological component to it. Okay, so how did they carry out that study? That took them years to do. It was Ketty and a small team of researchers went over there, and they went through, as I've said, every single adoption case that existed in the country at that time, being able to access records of who were the biological parents, adoptive parents, and spent years
All right, so we got a question here from Fats Rabbits. It says, so why do humans need religion? What is its purpose in the human experience? Well, you already know the answer to this. It's not so much that humans need religion, it's that humans created religion. They did. And more than likely, we have found a connection to this Holy Spirit through plants. And then comes the creative stories. And then comes the gotcha moment where all of the entheogens and stuff that have given the people the creativity to at least start and create these stories in the beginning have then been stolen and then altered, and continuing to do entheogenic rituals, stolen and altered, continuing to do entheogenic rituals, stolen and altered. And now, in the 21st century, no entheogenic rituals. And we have these religions that all claim that they're the paraphernalia in some way, or they think they're the best one in some kind of way, or they're piggybacking off of another one, and then they piggyback off of it. And then they create these different religions. And as we know, different political leaders, whether it be Genghis Khan or Donald Trump, will use a religion to bring masses together. And it's what they've always done this. Humans have created a worship of a deity, and then you find a group of people that are worshiping a different deity, and that's enough of a reason and justification to go and slaughter them and steal all the women and kids and all that other good stuff. So religions have been doing this with doctrine to mandate that they are allowed to do this because the book that they have said they're allowed to do it. Now, there's problems with these religions, whether it be Judaism becoming a banking mob of the world, or if it be Christianity being, this promise of an eternal heaven that, absolutely nobody can prove, and all these near-death experiences look just like psychedelic visions and stuff. So, and then we have wars fought over these things where literally people that have stolen the exact same ideologies have written new books. And in their new book, it says that you can go and kill everybody that doesn't believe in this version of this stolen idea and, reorchestrated book. It's pretty fucking insane, to be honest with you. So I understand, why would humans even need this anymore? Well, we don't need it anymore. There's enough political ideology that's got us fighting in place over, how we're supposed to live and stuff, to where politics has become the new religion. And there was a time when politics and religion were merged, just like how there was a time when religion and entheogens were merged. And what's happened over time is we've itemized everything. So that's ultimately what we're looking at.
Interviewing all these people, interviewing biological relatives of individuals with and without schizophrenia, adoptive relatives, and in the process, they have done something unique. Take your average, psychiatrist who works with people with schizophrenia and 10 patients, 20, whatever, over the course of the year. If they're young, a couple of times a year, you'll meet with their parents for a progress report. And what these guys had done instead was, in the process of doing this for years and years, they had just talked to more relatives of people with schizophrenia than anybody had ever done before, because they were going through hundreds, thousands of cases. They just had the largest exposure to close relatives of people with schizophrenia ever, and they noticed something interesting. They noticed that not every single family member of somebody with schizophrenia, absolutely nothing remotely of that, but at a higher than expected rate, a lot of these relatives were like a little bit weird, a little bit off. People could be a little bit off in the exact same way and not have a close relative with schizophrenia. Not every relative of people with schizophrenia shows this profile, but at a way higher than expected rate, some sort of odd features. And when you look at them, they wind up being kind of a mild version of schizophrenia, what has come to be called schizotypal personality. And people debate whether it should be called schizotypal personality or schizotypal personality disorder. Is this a disorder? Is this a quirk? Is this an idiosyncrasy? It's people who are perfectly normal, but are kind of odd in a number of fairly consistent ways. Odd perceptions. They will report feeling a presence of someone in the room when they're in an empty room, things of that sort. Social withdrawal, very socially disconnected. Two classic professions of schizotypal individuals. One is you're up on top of a fire tower watching over mountains looking for forest fires, and you're by yourself 24/7, or you go into a movie theater and in the back there's the person running the film or whatever who sits there in the dark all day, tending towards occupations that were extremely solitary. Social withdrawal. Mild concreteness along the lines of domains that most of us would see as parables, metaphorical, whatever, they take literally. For example, just to show you where we're heading, very literalist, concrete interpretations of the Bible. The world really was made in 7 days. It is really possible for someone to have walked on water, to have turned blood into wine, whatever it is that went on, that these were not just instructive metaphors, parables.
Water into wine?
Yeah. I can't believe you forgot that. That's funny.
Right. Let's go.
But quite literal, mild concreteness along those lines. Finally, the really interesting one is what came to be termed metamagical thinking. Just being really interested in, like, kind of borderline suspect stuff, like horoscopes or extrasensory perception or UFOs, or people who were really, really, really into their science fiction, fantasy, whatevers. And
I think I know where he's going with this. And ultimately, what this ends up making it look like is that people that believe in Christianity, for example, like our friends that we bring on the show, and ourselves actually have something in common. Let's keep going.
Cosplay and go off to these Star Trek conventions and all of those. This is not a mental illness. Going to a Star Trek convention is not a sign of a mental illness, nor any of these. It's just sort of an odd.
Right. So a guy going to a Star Trek convention does not actually think that there are, astronauts or, these Star Trek soldiers, if you will, whatever they're called, the Galactic Fleet,
The Galactic Federation.
The Galactic Federation, right. The people that are into these really odd things that he's talking about, they don't actually believe it to be true. They're just really interested in it. Let's go.
Quirky personality that has some resemblances to schizophrenia, but a milder version of all of these, and thus termed schizotypal personality. So, looking at this, the question becomes, who are individuals who are schizotypal? And it turns out, almost 100 years ago, an anthropologist named Paul Radin gave what I find to be very convincingly the answer to that question. Radin studied Northwest Native American populations and wrote various dictionaries and stuff, and a very accomplished anthropologist. And Radin at the time began to talk about how in lots and lots of traditional societies, indigenous cultures, there would be an individual who he would call half crazy. Half crazy. Who was he talking about?
He's talking about me. Just go.
Shamans. This made perfect.
Oh, well, this does make perfect sense. Here we go.
Perfect sense. In lots of cultures, shamanism is about tricksterism, things of that sort, sleight of hand and things like that. But in lots and lots of cultures, what are shamans? They go into trances, they talk to the dead, they turn themselves into a hyena during the full moon, they sojourn alone, living for days and days in the desert, and then come back with a good word, things of that sort. Shamans in culture after culture are shot through
So one question I want people to just think of, this is a funny situation. Just hear me out. Let's say you had 3 days to go hang out with a bunch of Christians, and then you had 3 days to hang out with a bunch of shamans. You know, and people might have different answers here. They might argue against this, but it would be my educated guess that if somebody that didn't have any prior knowledge to religions at all, and let's just take today, for example, the 21st century, where everything's, you know, iPads and social media, whatever. If Christianity wasn't a big predominant religion, and let's just say that shamanism wasn't a predominant thing, and it's not. Let's just say you had someone who is an experiment. You're going to spend 3 days with the Christians, and then you're going to spend 3 days with the shamans. I guarantee you, somebody without any family or societal guilt tripping, fear mongering is going to return from the shamanic experience with the same thing that religions hoped that kid would leave their 3-day experience. They're going to hope that the kid feels.
Yeah, I could see that.
But he's not going to. You know, and that's the thing about religions that kills me, is that at the end of the day, no matter how deep you dig with the clergies, you still never end up taking anything solid or tangible with you. It's not like anybody goes to a church. I mean, we've had our guests, and I've had my stories, and they've had their stories, and we've talked about how we can have these profound experiences. But usually you have to be in a state of extreme emotional pain and damage for you to get a profound experience from something as simple as sitting in a congregation of people who are all united over the same thing. However, take the same person grieving, and he goes to church, doesn't really do anything other than give him a group of friends, and that's great and all, but you have to keep going along with their narrative to keep them as friends. Otherwise, they won't be inviting you to the freaking Bible readings on Sunday night at the pastor's house, where he watches all the young girls in bathing suits the entire time jumping in the pool. See, you're not going to actually leave these experiences with these Christians or these Jews or even people that are Islam or any other religion. You're not going to leave that experience believing any of it. Just like how nobody, you know, it's it's not going to happen. You know, even people that convert to religions later in life, they're usually at some sort of emotional distress when it happens, to where it does that uncoupling effect of the brain that allows
it's like a coping mechanism.
Right. It allows you to be vulnerable enough. But remember, if Christianity was a secret religion that not a lot of people participated in, going to the ceremonies and leaving, you never go back. However, if there was these secret religions of people that were doing these entheogens, where you go to the other realm and you see all these things that you have never seen before, you've never even had them in dreams, you would absolutely leave that experience not only part of the religion, but you will have your mind blown. And that's what it took me. It took me getting my mind blown a few times to really, really let that atheism shell that I had sort of dematerialize some. Let's go.
With metamagical beliefs and actions, and often social withdrawal. And what you see there is shamanism has been around forever, and there's this whole thread of anthropologists noting this. One anthropologist named Ackerneck talking about shamans as being healed madmen. Another anthropologist, Devereaux, this was mostly in the 1930s and 40s, talking about how religion is organized schizophrenia, and schizophrenia is personal religiosity, talking about shamanism as a root of all of this. And this winds up, for my money at least, and lots of people at the time, making a ton of sense. Now, one of the all-time grand poobahs of anthropology, this guy Alfred Kroeber, had something really interesting to say about this. He was one of the dominant anthropologists of the early part of the 20th century. Incidentally, anyone who is a science fiction fan and reads and adores Ursula K. Le Guin's writing, Ursula K. for Kroeber, she was the daughter of Alfred Kroeber. which probably explains the very anthropological and zoological tint to a lot of her writing. In any case, Alfred Kroeber, early in the last century, was considering this whole issue of people who were psychiatrically suspect, half madmen, healed madmen, and associating it with shamanism. And he wrote a really interesting essay called Sanction or Sanctuary, where the whole point of it is, in culture after culture, as we heard last week, people who are mentally ill, people with schizophrenia are peripheralized, are outgrouped, or mistreated, or persecuted, or all of that, including people with milder versions. And his emphasizing that in lots of indigenous religions, not only is religiosity there a place of sanctuary for individuals with a personality profile like this, but in fact is sanctioned. It is celebrated amid people with schizophrenia having a decreased reproductive success. In culture after culture, shamans are proclaimed. Shamans are powerful members of society. Shamans often have very elevated reproductive success rates, all of that. So this argument all along,
I could see the physical benefits of being involved with this stuff, potentially making it easier on your system to work the way it needs to. One of the issues in male reproduction is your brain controls a lot of what's going on down there. If you're stressed out, people talk about not being able to get turned on and stuff because they're so stressed out over all these things, but let's keep going.
Saying this is a traditional role filled by people with schizotypal personalities. Now, Kroeber made this very, very clear distinction, which comes down to, for example, this quote: in general, the psychopathologies that get rewarded among primitives are only the mild and transient ones. And he at one point said, yes, it's great having shamans, but society is ill-served by somebody who 24/7 believes that he is a tree. And a great example of this, Kroeber mostly studied North Plains Native Americans, and he was at one ceremony once with a sort of informant there, and watching it, and it was the shamanistic ceremony, and the shaman was this frothy, amazing, over the top, all sorts of histrionic stuff going on. And at some point, the informant leaned over to Kroeber.
Histrionic personality disorder is something that we've talked about late in the recent few years with people.
What's that?
It's pretty much the look at me, look at me, look at me syndrome.
Oh, like
Right.
main character syndrome. Okay.
Yeah, so women that are always posting their assholes on Instagram, they have histrionic personality disorder.
Said, wow, can you believe our shaman? He's like the best. Nobody does these rituals like he does. He is just over the top with all of that. We are so lucky to have him as our shaman. But thank God we don't have two of them. And what we just saw is culture.
I will say that when I've talked to people about witch doctor stuff, whatever it is, and I've worked with a lot of different chemicals in different realms of the body, different intentions, that I have felt the same kind of expression from people where they like that I have the enthusiasm that I have. They can, obviously, I'm a little bit out there, willing to be like that and stuff, experience to be more real for people. But if there was two of me, it would drive you nuts.
Could deal with a certain number of individuals like this. You don't want half the population to be shamans. You want people to speak in tongues during religious rituals. You don't want them to speak in tongues in the middle of the quiet moment of a hunt or something like that. It is partial. It is controlled madness in the terminology they gave there. Kroeber, by stating it in terms of these are people whose psychopathologies are mild and transient, who are hearing voices at the right time. What he just defined was schizotypalism half a century before the word even came to exist. So you look at that, and what that begins to suggest in traditional human cultures, we've got the same kind of heterozygotic, homozygotic argument that we've seen in other cases. Heterozygotic, you got the shamans, like every culture has come up with shamanistic individuals and celebrated their metamagical stuff and all of that. And if the price is, if the homozygotic.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I muted you a little bit just because I was picking up some of the microphone. That's all.
Okay. Yeah.
Price is every now and then you deal with a cousin with what we would call full-blown schizophrenia. The trait is carried along by the adaptiveness of the partial version. That is the argument that comes out of that for the evolution of schizophrenia. There has not been selection for genes pertinent to schizophrenia. There's been selection for milder versions of those genes with schizotypalism. Okay, so what about in the West? What about in the West? And you notice we already heard from Kroeber's quote, the word primitive pop up. Ackernecht in the 30s was probably the most leftist anthropologist of this whole time period, which is to say he was not a flaming racist, unlike sort of the backbone of anthropology then. Ackernecht was outraged at words like primitives and things of that sort, and saying like, how dare we sort of, be offensive about their religions and traditional cultures, saying that they are mired in the irrational. No, they're not irrational. They're serving purpose for them, all of that. And his argument was you can't make that distinction between Western culture and indigenous traditional ones. And my view is you can't make that distinction either, but for a different reason. Yeah, traditional cultures, shamanism, and their religions are totally irrational. And religiosity in the West is totally irrational as well. And we will see sort of the formal definitions of that, of how it fits. That's been sort of people at the time saying our culture is unique in having banished irrationality. That might be a little bit over optimistic there. Here are some recent statistics from a poll looking at American adults who were allowed to vote and drive motor vehicles and things of that sort. And what did this recent poll show? 25% of Americans say that they believe in ghosts.
Ghosts, all right.
36% believe in mental telepathy. You can project your thoughts into somebody else or pick them. 47% believe that not only are there alien life forms out there, but they have visited us and they're UFOs. And more than half of Americans believe that the devil is not a metaphor, that the devil is a literal being in some version of flesh and blood. We have not banished the irrational in westernized cultures. We have instead celebrated it forever.
And this is where it becomes so heated, is the fact that people are allowed to walk around believing something so fucking insane. And that if I try to explain the story from a more anthropologically, historically, archaeologically, sound perspective, I get laughed at from these people who are shaking Bibles in my face saying I'm going to go to a hell, which I thought, it's the most agitating thing in the world when a greater portion than just you, a group of people believe in something so ludicrous. But the only reason they're able to do that and have a straight face and have a job and be an engineer or whatever it is that they do and not be locked up in a fucking psych ward is because so many people are doing it. And this is where I have the argument that just because the masses are doing it, it's now magically okay. And I've fought against this sort of concept for a really long time because people are so fucking dumb that they will literally just regurgitate stuff without looking it up. And they'll participate in things without doing any fucking research. So let's go.
Some cases, the metamagical irrationality of the West is fairly recent. This is like some new age, nouveau peasant belief stuff with hot tubs or who knows, things like that. But in lots of cases, instead of this fast food spirituality, it is metamagical thinking that is stretched back for centuries, for thousands of years, have legacies all throughout our history, and the West has been mired in metamagical thinking in the form of Western religions. And just to put that sort of in perspective, it is not normally a sign of robust, good mental health to report that you hear a voice coming out of a burning bush.
So this same thing, I can just say, just as a little bit of the Lady Babylon sort of stuff, is I see some similar things here that we see with the crowd that comes out of Lady Babylon. And kind of like what I was saying a minute ago, the people that are fans of this, of the way that he's doing it, they might have zero idea that there's a satire element to it, but they still are doing the same thing that other Christians are doing with Lady Babylon's channel, and full faith following everything that comes out of the mouth and then regurgitating it the same way that he does, which also lets everyone know where you heard it from. But the Christians and the Babylonians, I have found some in both groups to do the exact same thing towards whatever it is that they're looking for. It's just that the problem is that the Babylonians are talking about things that are realistically in history, and that did exist, such as these magical potions and stuff and the entheogenic effects it has. Whereas Christianity, no one's ever seen freaking Jesus, and they have rewarded the belief in him for 2,000 years and regurgitated verses out of the Bible that are so vague, these moralistic verses, like don't sleep with your neighbor's wife. Yeah, no shit. You don't need Jesus to tell you that, because when you sleep with your neighbor's wife, your neighbor's going to come and fucking shoot you or kill you or stab you or something. So I think we're smart enough nowadays to not need some fucking elementary school level fucking morals list of things not to do. And I love how Christians always like to think that we'd be going around and cheating on everyone and murdering everybody without the freaking religion, when people do the shit anyway, with the religion being alive for 2,000 fucking years. So.
To report that you just spent the night wrestling with an angel, to report that you just had a conversation with someone who died a few days ago and you encountered them walking around. Where did these notions come from? Where did the idea come that the world was made in 7 days, or that when snakes are talking to you about apples, be careful because they're up to no good? These were not made by committees. These were made by schizotypal individuals who were immensely influential and wound up supplying the metamagical thought for their whole culture for centuries, for millennia.
Which is why when they got rid of the entheogens, it didn't matter at this point. We had already given the status to these guys, these clergy members, whether it's shaman or priests, that they've already created the forefront for people just jumping on the bandwagon without the product and just driving the narrative.
Millennia afterward. Now, of course, this brings us back to Kroger's point. You don't want somebody who always thinks they're a tree. You don't want somebody who is bursting out in glossolalia in the middle of a quiet part of a hunt. All that. You want it controlled. You want it partial. You want it mild and transient, because if you overdo it, as we saw with that story I had last week about the Maasai, and like every culture on earth, if you overdo it into full-blown mental illness, people tend not to be very nice to you, and you tend to be peripheralized. And we could look at all sorts of historical cases of this kind of schizotypal thought taken to an extreme, and they're usually disasters. And we have a
like Paul
word for them. They're cults. For example, Charles Manson was a diagnosed was diagnosed with schizophrenia long before he like burst onto the national consciousness in the 1960s. All of you are way too young to know about him. Another one, Jim Jones, led Jonestown in Guyana. That led to this mass suicide of almost 1,000 people with this religious group that he had founded. And he had been diagnosed with amphetamine psychosis. Ooh, that takes us back to the schizophrenia lecture. I left that out. That whole thing, you block dopamine receptors and schizophrenic symptoms.
Chase is here.
I bet you there was too much dopamine.
Oh, cool. What up?
Dopamine hypothesis. Do the opposite. Take someone who is.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Cool, man. What are you guys watching?
We're
What are you
watching
watching?
this religious beliefs from this professor. I've seen some videos on him talking about some other stuff. Robert Sapolsky's Human Behavioral Biology. And he's talking about how you pretty much have to have a mild form of schizophrenia to entertain. Well, he's talking about shamanism and religious stuff.
Is he the guy that recently published the article about reiterating the fact that we have no free will, kind of from a cognitive point of view? Is that him?
I don't know. This guy, he's very familiar. I mean, I've seen. He's very
That
recognizable.
sounds like Sam Harris, Chase. Sam Harris talks about.
Well, yes, right. Well, people have for. I'm sorry, I'm out of camera right now. People have for way longer than Sam Harris. Sam Harris just took like a Zen argument and expanded it into our kind of like our dialogue and started coming at it from like a hard atheist point of view. But I thought that there was some kind of behavioral neuroscientist guy that recently came out and then like made this big deal like, yeah, we proved it. There's no free will or whatever else. And it's like, so the same thing someone's been talking about for a while. You didn't stumble into anything new. Maybe you proved some kind of thing. Anywho, I didn't know if it's this guy. Is this so he's like a hard, I'm just trying to get an idea of where he's coming from. He's like a hard atheist.
Well, this professor, I don't know. He doesn't really talk about his own beliefs, but the way that he approaches this, it sounds. I mean, he's over intellectualizing this conversation. I would say just a tad.
So would you say that he's like very logical?
Yeah, he's pretty much explaining to people, regardless of the audience, that where the religious stuff comes from, you know, and what kind of individual it takes to kind of derive that kind of philosophy, if you will, and how it's been rewarded for years because the religions have obviously been sort of taken over and expanded, you know, at least as much as their laws allow them to. So some you have to be born into it, you know, and others you can recruit. And so he's just talking about how we got here in the first place and what kind of.
So it's like a distinct. He's not distinguishing between them. He's more talking about the human mind, how he thinks it, or at least how it seems to operate with the psychology of organized religion.
Yes, and this is a really long lecture that I probably won't.
Oh, gotcha.
It's so long, but it's kind of. I've been, as you know, I've been live all day today. I went live earlier, then I went live again, then I'm live again, and you know, in all honesty, I'm at work and it's slow as shit. So I was like, well, what better way to do some stuff? You know, I'm just doing security at the ranch, but it's Sunday, so it's real slow and there's barely anybody here. So these days can drag. So I'm, you know, I got 2 more hours left though. So what you gonna
nice. All kinds of stuff, man. I'm trying to take a day off from running the kava place, but it's not working out too great. But to do some work around my house, so yeah, it's not bad. And then yeah, saw you send links, so I was like, oh, I'll pop on. Saw you on earlier, but I couldn't. I was driving around doing errands.
Right.
So no, every day feels like Groundhog's Day to me. So yeah, as far as when people approach it like this, I'm sure like that's stuff that I was hardcore into when I was in um, taking classes in philosophy of science and stuff, and I think it's really effective, like in kind of painting the picture of like detrimental groups and patterns and like what they share in common and stuff. But kind of like what we've talked about on here before, the only problem is it always seems to position itself on the outside, as if there's this outside place you can get to where this won't affect you. But all humans seem to move in groups and think collectively. We hang out long enough from the outside of people, we might look like a cult, right? Like we don't believe in murdering people. We naturally start making these like belief structures and stuff like that. And so when you step out of it, I feel like talking about this stuff, like everything becomes just like drugs, it becomes like a negative connotation, and then you're not really talking about anything actually applicable in terms of things. And then it also separates people in terms of like, well, you're superstitious. And then it doesn't really dive into the religion. It bases I guess this is a question. When he's describing all of that stuff, is he basing his idea of what he thinks religion is based on the fairy tale version of the Abrahamic faiths?
Well, he doesn't really go into a lot of detail. He was kind of covering how like the human biology has gotten here in the first place. And so what he did was when he started the lecture, he linked it to his previous lecture, which was on schizophrenia. And so he kind of went to the back of this old lecture that he had done, I guess, just recently, or his last one. And he sort of segued himself into this lecture by talking about schizophrenia and what these characteristics are like, a little bit of the history of it. And then he says that there's relatives of these guys with schizophrenia that will have their, it's called
schizotypical, I think is what he said.
Yes, schizotypical beliefs. It's like a mild version of schizophrenia, where you'll entertain things like UFOs and conspiracies and ghosts and the devil being a real thing. So notice how he incorporated the devil in those examples, because once again, this is the belief that everything out of the book is taken literally, including the concept of being the son of a god and not any of the metaphorical symbology that might be behind that. Even if they are literally saying it in the text, it doesn't make it any more true. And that's another thing. People had an issue with that, you know. Hey, give me just 1 second, guys. I'll be right.
1 second. Do you mind talking again real quick for a test, Witch Doctor, or did he just break out?
No, he'll be back in a second.
Okay, I thought my signal was bad. Sometimes my house signal gets wonky. I think I think all of that stuff is fascinating. I just get kind of, I don't know, cautious about when
you're medicalizing someone's belief.
Like, oh, those people, something's wrong with those people. What is my signal bad?
No. It's like you're cautious about medicalizing someone's belief. You're turning someone's belief into a pathology.
Sure. Yeah. Obviously I'm over, I support education and all of the where the scientific method or a method like that opens us up to. But when we start boxing and isolating people, like something's wrong with you because you kind of believe strange things, but I don't believe any strange things. And it kind of I think it separates people from the human experience. And also like, it's strange. I guess it could be considered, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a medical professional. Maybe this does fit the DSM really well, but I've talked about this with Tiger Shark before. When you call someone schizophrenic, I think of modern man more than anything in terms of a person who gets up in the morning and they're one person in their head, like they're talking to themselves and they're preparing for the day. And then they go into work and then they're their work version, right? Or maybe they're in a negotiation and then they're their lunch person. And then maybe they're on the phone, they're with their wife. They're like their husband personality. and then they get off work and now they're XYZ personality or bar personality who's also like that feels way more schizophrenic to me. And maybe it lends itself to it than someone who's just curious about something. But I guess it depends on, I mean, obviously it's probably really a long lecture, but I feel like it starts to separate us from each other in a way that's like, well, something's wrong with you because you don't believe the thing I believe or see the world the way I think I
Yeah,
do or the way I think you
I think
should.
what the guy is
And then
saying is
also,
like,
this is how the world works in definitive standards.
I think what the guy is saying is like, it's not that you're schizophrenic, it's that you're displaying mild forms of schizophrenic traits,
Hmm.
right? It's not
Yeah.
like the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like semen, the semen guy, semen all over your face. He talks about it in his videos as they're not using their dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which is the area of the brain that makes you critically think and stuff. So it's like only operating out of your lizard brain, kind of deal.
Hmm. Yeah, I could see that. And maybe because I'm so narrowly focused on the Abrahamic faiths, but sometimes I don't think so. I think there's something very unique about that faith where when you start describing something like a dangerous cult, right? It's usually a charismatic leader. It's someone that separates you from your close people around you. Like you should not listen to them. You should only listen to me. You should give me all your belongings. Everybody else is lying to you. I alone hold the truth, and you must, XYZ, and you're going to be put into this hierarchy. And maybe you have a contract for 1 billion years with Xenu or something. And then this is your path to divinity. And that happens in relationship type of cults where it might not be centered around a religious belief. It could be someone who's like really charismatic or in the self-help genre, like the Nexium guy. But you notice that all of those pillars that we use to describe this is a negative manipulative thing, and people who understand that will utilize this to exploit you, basically. And that's the people we want to rescue is from groups that are doing that, regardless of what the belief system is. But you notice all of those pillars, and maybe it's just me. But what do you think about that? All of those pillars seem to be intentionally designed in the Abrahamic faith and how it's taught to people. You know what I mean? And I don't mean bad people. Like, again, this is not a big slight on Christianity or whatever else, but when it's like, we have the truth, you just have to believe it and say it, and now you're good. You just have to commit yourself. Don't read anything else. Everybody else is lying or evil or possessed or something. You can save them. Like that's the recruitment thing, right? That's what cults do. They have to recruit people. You got to go convert people. Like all of those traits are naturally it seems to be, at least when I was pitched evangelicalism when I was younger, they're inherently in there, right? And we can talk about them like they're vague steps, but I didn't feel that when I met a Buddhist or when I met a Hindu person. I don't know what your experience has been like, but it seems like that starts to lend more credence to the idea that the cognitive framing and using abstract language as opposed to like using something like ancient Greek and all of that other stuff, it seems quite intentional by certain groups a long time ago. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't intentional at first, but it certainly became that way. I mean, we could say all
Yeah, that
we
could be
could
it
say
too.
we could say all we want that it started nefarious, but like I don't know, maybe it fucking didn't. Like maybe it was good. Maybe there was good intentions. I mean, the road to hell is paved with good intentions,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's very true. Like I've been witness to that my whole life. Good intentions fuck shit up a lot of
Yeah.
the time, man. Like a lot of the times, good intentions do not work. It's like best laid plans. Everything looks good on paper, but in practice, it's not. It's the difference between theory and practice, right? In theory, it could be great, but in practice, it's not so good, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like in like the maybe forcing a small narrow idea on everybody else. is never going to work out.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, like I got a really grandiose idea. It might be really cool, and it's a cool direction maybe to point a ship, but to tell everybody this is exactly how you sail your ship is a different game, you know, and like we don't know what storms people are going to be up against or what societies are going to be up against. Yeah, I could see that. I could see like especially since like the Medes, the Sybils, the Echinaic, you know, Echinaic, no, um, Echinaic. Well, I'm sorry, I'm bad with the names, but all these different the Magi, like all these different cults that are all over there. Before it became like this unified thing, and
Let's get started.
yeah, it makes you think. Like someone like Paul seemed to really capitalize that. Before I kind of fell down the ancient Greek rabbit hole, I remember reading a lot about Paul, and I was like, "Oh, this guy's like a super manipulative psychopath." And everybody's talking about him like he's really great, but you see how he like positioned
now
himself
whether or not
to be a
Paul was
victim
even
in
real,
prison,
right?
wrote these letters. Yeah, he might not be, dude. Yeah, that's another crazy thing. But like the position of the character feels psychopathic, like
Yeah, of
how he
course, of
wrote the
course.
letters that basically gained converts, and then like it was seemed very political, very organized, very galvanizing, and then getting the people that were not considered a part of that specific religion to say you can easily just convert over here, and then we got you too, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you, oh look, you just say these words and now you're one of us, or you do this ritual and now you're one of us, you know. And that like galvanizes your political base. And they're all, and everything else is evil, all, you know, all the pagans, they're all bad, blah.
Yeah, this is the
So
video we were watching, but I'm not sure how fucking far we were in it, so I'll probably just wait for. I should probably just wait for Witch Doctor to get
yeah.
back. Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, that's like a deep thing. What was the I was thinking about other things. Do you ever think about like
Have you watched Amon's
so
recent videos? I haven't seen them.
I have seen I think I'm all caught up. I think I'm in the middle of the last one he did. Yeah, I'm in the middle of the last one. Yeah, they've been
Yeah, I
fire,
haven't.
man. I really enjoyed them. I mean, you know, I know that there's you know, it would take a lot of work for me to be like, well, I got to find something wrong with what he's saying. Um, but I don't think I'm going to really. I mean, it hasn't happened to me in the past when I've gone through that. But like, yeah, when he follows the roots of those words and he shows you the purple everywhere, or and then he shows you the Christing everywhere. That's the most crazy thing. It's all the different types of Christing that are all over antiquity, like all over literature for all different generations and stuff, and they're all referring to it in a certain way. And there was one of his videos, maybe it was the last one or the one before that. It was pretty brilliant. He showed a text, it was a biblical text that you know when people say anointing, right? Christing meant anointing. Like they
Yeah,
interchangeably, that's kind of the apologetic stance is like, well, hey, yeah, this word means Christing here, but the Hebrew, they were clear, or the Christians, if it's just an ancient Greek, were using it in this form. Actually, it meant anointing to them. So just anointing with water, or oil, or something safe, or something like that, right? Or
yeah,
this,
yeah,
you know, right? Okay, so that's what they say. But and then in another biblical text, the word for anointing and Christing are right the fuck next to each other. So you know they knew the difference between those two words, and then those two words
yes,
were
yes,
placed together in this other story to clearly show a different type of Christing. And so now you're like, okay, so how do you solve this riddle, Bible scholars? You just told
yeah,
me they interchangeably use those words. So then they put them together. So you mean, what are you talking about? So it starts to like, those are the things, those patterns. It's like physics. It's like, look at how an engine works. It's like, I actually absolutely love the ancient Greek, and the very tiny bit I've been able to dig into has made me think
yeah.
about things completely differently.
I
And
really like the
but
Christing
I
stuff.
can't do it.
I like it a lot. I like I have a 24 page PDF that I've written up tracing the semantic shift of the word Christing from a
Mhm,
medical term to a spiritualized term. And
mhm,
it's actually pretty interesting how the word was kind of hijacked for
mhm.
spiritual use, right?
Right. Well, when did things become like spiritual in quotes? That's really fascinating. You just said that. Like when that was a schism, I imagine, right? That was a schism when all of a sudden the
Yeah,
Catholic
yeah.
Church is like, throw those texts out. Actually, this is what it means. So that's kind of crazy. That's like, oh
Yeah,
shit. So you're telling
it's
me
like
that this was invented recently?
it's like we were saying earlier about the whether or not was it all nefarious from the start, right? And there's a thing called everyone knows about the Council of Nicaea, but there's another one, the Council of Laodica, I think it's pronounced, and that's where they banned all use of plant medicine and stuff like that, and
No shit.
you could only find healing through a priest or God and stuff like that. Like they banned all pagan pharmacon and stuff like that, right?
I
I
bet they
think
charge you for it too, bro.
yeah,
I bet they charge you for it.
Yeah, it was your soul. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to hear something nuts?
Which
So
doctor said he'll be back in a minute?
go ahead.
Which doctor said he'll be back now in a minute?
Okay, cool. I'm gonna tell you a quick fun story I just heard.
Yeah, go ahead.
So at Kava bars, and I want to do an episode of Witch Doctor about this because there's a lot of herbs and new things that are opening up into the consumer market, and everyone needs to be very mindful that it is new, and there's going to be a lot of people that are going to introduce stuff that they might not know what it does or whatever else. Like an example would be
I'd
the
love to
seven.
open a coffee bar here where I live. If I could get money to do
Oh
that,
yeah.
that'd be cool.
So if you follow the plants, like what we do,
Yeah.
I believe in, and the other comp bars who have mentored me, like we don't go into that crazy shit. So what's happened is like there are things like 7OH that's going around right now, and it goes underneath different names. You'll find them in vape shops, and sometimes a shitty kava bar will carry them. They're highly addictive because they've taken the alkaloid that is one alkaloid out of many in this plant called kratom that helps people,
Yes,
and
yes,
they isolated it, and it's so strong, right? And it's like 0.02%. It's so low in the plant, but it's so low they cannot extract it from the plant. So instead, they just synthesize the molecule, concentrate it, and then they throw it in a fucking pill or a shooter or something, and they're
yeah.
telling people it's kratom, but it's not kratom. It's just that
No,
synthesized
yeah.
one single alkaloid, and it's frying
Yeah.
people's fucking receptors, man. It's like making, like you can it's very difficult for you to take other medications if you get really hooked on it. It's very difficult to get off. We don't know
Yeah,
the
yeah.
effects of it. So but anyway, but like in terms of like the helpfulness of something like the kratom plant, like my friend's uncle is like a real naturalist, and like hunts his own food, plants his, eats the plants he plants and all that other stuff. And he's getting older now, like, so he's getting close to 70, and he's
Mm.
having a lot of pain and just from old injuries. He was like a wireman, like all that stuff, right? So the doctor's like, hey, bro, you're gonna have to like bite the bullet because he hates medication. He doesn't want to take anything, not ibuprofen, not nothing, right? He's very
Okay.
natural. It's like hardcore, right? And the doctor's like, in order for you to function, you're gonna have to eventually do something because you know, this is a lot. This is a lot for you. This is it's kind of wrecking your life. Well, he didn't want to take any of that, obviously. So my buddy sent him some kratom, like in a brewed kind that's just the leaf, you know what I mean? And now
Yeah, yeah.
he's like hopping and
Crave's
skipping,
Crave's
doing
pretty
all
good.
this shit. And he's like, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And you're like, yeah. And then this thing, if it has a ceiling to it, you can get a little buzzed on it. You can get addicted to it for sure.
Yes.
But you can tamper down off of it. It has all these different ways because it's just the natural plant. And like if someone's on that their whole life versus booze or like a pharmaceutical strong painkiller, the side effects are little to none. Like people don't get hungover. They're not gonna go fucking spend. They might spend a little too much money on it, but I mean they're not gonna go like cheat on their wife. Not gonna get in a fight at a bar. They're not gonna go down a nose candy rabbit hole and start being really insane and stuff. So it's like the fact that we do that as a species, it makes me think that that's what I was saying is like imagine you don't know what this is. We're in antiquity, and then you run into a
Mm.
tribe that introduces it to you. What does that feel like? Well, it feels like you've now become a Marvel superhero. Like you just went
Yes.
from I've got so much pain to whatever else, and someone gives you a little Prometheus opiate plant, and all of a sudden I got the power of the gods. Like holy
Yeah, yeah,
shit, I can keep going and keep doing good shit. And it's like
yeah.
that seems to be the case, I think, with a lot of these things of how they viewed stuff. And then if I wanted to control you, because I know you'll get old and you'll suffer and all this other stuff, I'd control your medicine, bro. I'd control your food and your medicine, your education.
Of
That's what
course,
I
of
do,
course, of
because
course, of course.
you're going to come up against physics. And if you're suffering more, you're going to be worried about that more. If you're whatever else. So it's like, it kind of makes sense, the tyrannical thing of like getting the drugs out, because and then like the psychedelics, there's like, God, there's probably a ton we don't even really fully know about, right? And you can trip off frogs and stuff. It's crazy. So, and they're
Yeah,
all different types of experience. So there's probably a big thing to that too, because then I'm going to be forming new neural connections and making new associations. And if I'm like that, I'm much harder to control, if that makes any sense. If I wanted to control you, Marcel, if I take away your access to that, and I give you like a cognitive frame of how to think about things and look at things, I'm going to be able to make basic predictions on where you think, when you come up against a problem, what your options are. But if you're out there finding your own divinity and like, for better, or for worse or whatever, you might come back to me 2 years from now and be smarter than me, or like
exactly.
figure out a way to like be like, oh dude, Chase is a fucking tyrant. He's a piece of shit. Like, and I just built a catapult. I'm gonna fucking take him out because I figured it
Yeah.
out.
No, then
I don't know. It
that's
just makes
exactly
me
it.
think like
That's
that.
exactly
It
it.
just makes more sense.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
drug dealers,
yeah.
like
It's
crack
wild.
dealers today do the same thing to their groupies, if you will. They control their supply of the drug that they give them for free to get like favors and stuff, right? Like,
Right, to alleviate the suffering or give you like a temporary boost. Yeah, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
think the unfortunate part about our modern culture is that um, we have a lot of really great things in technology, and that's all very true. But most people's paths, I think the vast majority, if you're lucky enough to be in like a first world or second world, um, you're involved in patterns that maybe aren't very fulfilling, like you're greed chasing, or you're getting the
yeah,
next thing, or you're trying to get the next house or something. And really, the species we don't have really good long form dopamine for that. We have long form dopamine for like, how was it raising your kid? Oh man, it was so fucking hard, it's ups and downs and fear and all this other stuff. It's like, would you do it again? Oh yeah, fuck yeah, it's the best thing I ever did, dude. I feel like my purpose in life. So that long form dopamine, that purpose, um, is not in most of our modern society's behavior patterns. So you should expect, just like how water boils, that you would get way more anxiety disorders and way more depression and way more pain and way more, even though you just flooded the market with all this like shiny new toys and technology, and it's all things and consumers, you should expect more mental kind of degradation, especially when those people don't have access to an outlet or something to like that'll help them connect, and access maybe themselves, and also they think they're separate from nature. You turn into a culture of like, you're a little guy, you're riding around in your head, and this you're just here, you appeared here in this body, you're navigating this, but you're separate from it. Like I
yeah.
always love that. Alan
The
Watts
other,
talks about how people say we came into this world. He goes, we didn't come into this world, we came out of it like a flower. And
yes, yes,
there's just like all that stuff just gets my head spinning.
yeah, yeah. I can agree. The other thing
So
too, like with
what?
isolating, huh? What did you say?
Hold on one sec. Here, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me?
I think my mic was cutting off. I can hear
Okay.
you. I got you now. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, okay, yeah. So the other thing too with isolating like that 7OH or whatever is it removes like the entourage effect of all the other molecules or in the plant, right? Like you don't really people forget that like it's the interaction of everything that's in the plant. Like if you that's like when you isolate THC, like THC alone doesn't do anything. It's the terpenes and other
Mhm.
cannabinoids in the plant that give you the destination you're going to. THC is just the gas in the car, right? THC alone just makes you crazy. Like it doesn't do anything at all, to be honest. And like it was the prohibition of
That's
cannabis that led to the breeding of higher and higher THC profiles.
mm, that makes a lot of sense, man.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we're like and it's all usually for turning profit, right? Let's take that one
yeah.
little thing we think works really good or gets people hooked, turn that thing up as high as we can, and then
Yeah, yeah,
charge
yeah.
for it.
Yes, yes, yeah. Yeah,
What
they
so
both.
what's your where are you at? Where are you at with your view of all of this stuff in antiquity and stuff? Like in general, do you have like a general idea of what you think
Um,
about all this stuff? You know,
I,
where
I,
I know there seems
I
to still be this divide of whether Amon's right or wrong, you know,
yeah.
but I don't know.
I,
What do you
I,
think?
I can't say I think he's right or wrong because truth be told, like we're speculating about things that happened 2,000 years ago that we'll never have all the puzzle pieces to. It's like trying to put a puzzle together with 1/3 of the puzzle pieces and then saying you have the answer, and the sin of certainty is a dangerous thing, right? You can't, like, being certain about things is interesting, like it's one thing to speculate and think
Hmm.
you've found the answer, but to think you have the answer is a bit. I don't know, and I'm not saying I disagree with him because I like a lot of what he says, but I'm not gonna treat it as if he's, oh my god, he's found the
Hmm.
truth, right? But I don't know how to really. Yeah, I mean, I find I really like Almond's work, so I really don't know how to approach it without sounding like I think he's wrong, because I don't really think he's wrong. I just find the way he approaches it
Yeah.
sometimes just pushes people away that could benefit his ideas, right? But I guess he's doing it in his own way
Sure.
because of the satire style and theatrical nature of it, and how it's set up like ancient Greek theater, that he doesn't really care. He's got his truth put in there, and the theater around it is the theater around it, right? Now, I don't know if there's any.
Right.
I don't know
Do
if
you
there's
think?
any real. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say. So yeah, I definitely get that perspective. And maybe it's also because we're all scarred from like, well, I don't want to jump into another absolute or whatever else, but I don't feel the absolute from him. I feel a really big passion to tell me
Yes.
what's in the fucking text. That's what I feel coming out of him. Like, I'm going to show you what's in the text, prove me wrong. This text is saying this stuff, it's painting this picture. Like, for him to just invent that whole picture would be the most inventive mind we've ever seen. And for it somehow to map on perfectly to all these confusing gaps that have been left. And I don't mean perfectly in the exact language or whatever else, but I mean perfectly in painting this direction of what this thing is, what it's done, where it came from, how it maps on to why it was so important, slash maybe still is, and people are maybe still doing it, or how it maps on to physiology, how it maps on to like civilization, that like, someone like the Medes or the Medea, and like giving birth to civilization and the oracles and all this other stuff. And he's opening that door to uh, that whole kind of arena. I don't feel him telling me though this is exactly how all reality works, or this is the answer, your salvation kind of deal. It seems to be like they're lying to you about the text, and let me show you why. And
Yeah,
what I
but
find, like, so I get
the
your point of
theater
view too.
aspect
Like,
of him is telling
I
you
think
that,
we're
though.
kind of in the same boat with that. But
Like the theater aspect of what Amen does is telling you it is the reality, right? And that's where people are getting confused. They're confusing the theater aspect of him telling you that he's being absolute. They can't separate the theater absolute from the Amen showing you the text. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Oh no, Chase got dropped. Now I'm just stuck here. Uh-oh, I guess he'll be right back. So, what could I do until we get back here? I might just have to end the stream, but I doubt that. Let's see. Let's just go watch some of this video here, and I'll just play it from the start, I guess. Oh, Chase is back. Okay, you're
Hey,
back. Yeah.
dude, my signal went all robot and I couldn't hear
No,
anything and then it
it's
just cut
okay.
off.
So did you get so what I was saying was it's hard for people to separate the theater part of Amen, which is absolute, which is I am 100% correct, from the part of him that really knows he is just trying to show you how the texts were mistranslated and stuff.
Right.
Because he
Yeah,
uses
so that
because he uses the words "I'm giving you the reality" and stuff all the time, but that's just the
yes.
satirical. That's the satirical theater side of it, where because the church is saying they're giving you the reality all the time, right?
Yes, except is he? I agree with you saying like in the snippets and stuff, but is he true? Is he not lying about that? I'm giving you the reality of what's in the text, and the
Yeah,
church has not been, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so I think that yeah, if he was saying I'm giving you the reality of I don't know exactly
so,
how everything works, whatever else, but he's saying the reality of the text, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. But I'm
Um,
just laying out how people are misunderstanding the idea of
yes,
reality of the
well,
text versus right, like
yeah. Here's what I would say that's really fascinating to me that no one seems to be noticing is that everybody opposing or who I guess have positioned themselves to try to instead of trying to actually prove him wrong, like they have positioned themselves into he's just wrong about everything. He's got something psychologically wrong with him.
yes, yes, yes,
Whatever else. He's just a cult. He's just preaching the same thing, right? But the goalposts have moved infinitely. No one has
yes.
taken accountability for like the I mean, just the word Christ is enough for me. If there was no other like mistranslated word, that would be enough for me to flip my whole world upside down. And
Yeah,
I think
yeah, yeah.
that's like
I
really
agree. And
important.
I
But it's
agree on the whole
all
crisis
over.
stuff for
It's
sure.
all over. It's all the fucking words. It's all of them. Like, you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
You start to go, whoa. And the goalpost just starts to become like, regardless of what you think about his character, it shouldn't matter. Like, if you
No,
like him or you don't
exactly.
like him, or whatever else, like argue those points of that language. And you'd have to show me, just like if you're proving me like a better way to make a combustible engine, like you'd have to show me how your idea explains all the stuff that he has told like or has been evoking and has been like shining a light on how all of that how it seems like it all fits but it doesn't and here's the actual thing on top of it, right? Instead of just moving the goalposts, like the only reason any of us are having this conversation, the only reason they have anything to even fight back about is because the whole entire lens has been
Oh,
like
atomic
shine
release.
like broken open. And I know in the past, like, other people have said certain things, but I don't know if everyone's done, and I can't imagine anyone's done such a cohesive job, such a evocation. And I look forward to where that's going to go. And it's probably because of technology, the ability to connect to people, the ability to digitally pull up text and do translations and connections that would have taken you maybe a few years to go fucking drive down to another country or fly over, get that book, and then that get back and then compare them all. And now people can just get it if they're scanned in. You start making these lexicons like we have have easy access to. And yeah, man, I just so it's like it becomes a weird thing of like I don't I don't know how they survive this one. Like unless we get totally fascistically locked down and just the banning the books or the whatever else. Um, I don't know like just saying well he's just making that up, he invented all of this shit is bonkers to me. It's like again, you'd be the best fiction writer ever if you just came up with. I mean, like if
Yeah,
you watch
yeah,
enough of
yeah.
his stuff,
I don't.
he's not making it up. He's seeing it, and it's in the text. The texts are telling you the insanity of it, and then
Yeah,
reshaping how you might view how humans work.
but I think what people are saying it's like the movie A Beautiful Mind. He's just making connections that don't actually exist.
Well, you'd have to. I could see that, but you'd have to prove it. Like, so I could see that point, but like, so I think
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you
Well,
had
I'm not
with
saying that's
Ali
the case.
Rowan.
I'm just laying out how people are
Sure,
seeing
sure.
it. Right? Yeah, yeah.
let me give you a good example. Like I did hear Ali Rowan seemed like a really cool gal, and
Yeah, she's a nice
like
lady.
cool background story about what she came from and stuff. So when we position something like, well, he's making up, just making connections that aren't there about this theriac that had to do with Medea and all this stuff that you're doing. You go, okay. I mean, the language is really lining up pretty wildly. However,
Yes.
okay, maybe. So now I want you to explain that goblet they found in the museum, please. Please explain how Almond said all of this really wild shit none of us could even fathom because he said, I'm not making it up. I found it in the text. It blew my mind too. And then somehow, just coincidentally, someone found a goblet with vaginal mucus, breast milk, psychedelics, blood, you name it. We don't even know fully what's in there. And now they want to start go investigating more of these goblets. And if they haven't been cleaned out already, and can we find other traces? Now, how did that magically, coincidentally, line up with the direction that the picture that he
Yeah,
has
and
painted?
the
Not
other thing,
exactly. Maybe it wasn't exactly every ingredient, but like,
yeah,
and then you're saying, so he's making all that up. It's just imagining in his head. But then there's, if you're looking for scientific proof, go read what was in that goblet. And that's just one, right?
yeah,
And that
yeah.
it was around rituals and stuff.
I think
So
he
now you
wanted
have to explain
people.
all of that.
You're muted, Witch Doctor.
Oh, can you not hear me?
Yeah, you've been muted the whole time if you've been talking?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
Well, I was going to say, so somebody that studies, all the material that he covers, even if it doesn't directly, even if it's not directly from Christianity, it shouldn't sound that crazy. That's why it never sounded crazy to me. Now, my mom is an old guard. So if she discovers a theory first, and if she's going to allow herself to entertain it enough, she's brought up the concept of Jesus living past the crucifixion and having having a family and all that stuff, right? Which completely goes against our other theory of Jesus being a eunuch and pretty much a galley or an Inari ripoff. Now, none of this is in the text.
What? One second, Witch Doctor. Which angle did you get that from? My video camera's off. I'm trying to see if I can save my signal a little bit. If like when you said you thought Jesus was a eunuch, who positioned that theory? I hadn't heard that he was a eunuch. I had heard that he loved him. That's for sure.
So the only passage that Jesus refers to eunuchs is Matthew 19:12. And it says something to the effect of, for there were eunuchs who were made eunuchs in their mother's womb, and there are eunuchs who were made eunuchs by their masters. And then there are eunuchs who've become eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of the heavens. He who is able to accept this, let him accept it. So only he who can accept this can accept it. So the thing that's weird about this statement is that it almost seems like it's admiring the concept of being a eunuch. Now, remember, back in
absolutely,
600 years and predating, but let's just talk about the Galli and the Inari, which are from all of these surrounding areas, and so north, south, east, and west. Well, I don't know if you can say west because there's a big sea there, but north, south, east, west. There are castrated priests everywhere, and Josephus.
Oh, okay.
Josephus. He's the one guy people try to bring up when they're talking about. And one of the quotes I found from Josephus was, there were many priests, wandering priests from Galilee, and many of them caused disturbances. So the argument that we've forged here is one of the reasons why Jesus is always covered up in the nether regions is because they're not going to show this holy castration, if you will, number one. And then number two, the artwork shows a 33-year-old man. Even in the first 100 years of Christianity, they have this beardless guy. Now, back in the day, they used to draw eunuchs with what they called eunuchified features, which was grown body, no beard, and pretty like a smaller chin and smaller features. Because when you get castrated at 12,
testosterone, Yeah.
You never fully grow into a man. And so that's where they lumped eunuchs, women, and children all in one together when they referred to people that weren't men, right? So these eunuchs, who were typically servants, slaves, or people that sacrificed their nuts for the kingdom of the heavens, it wouldn't be insane to somebody like myself, who's an anthropology kid or wannabe, that has learned about all these castrated priests. You almost have to look at it like this. If you learn all the stuff that Amon's talking about first, and then you learn about Christianity, nothing he says is going to sound insane.
Exactly.
But if you have zero knowledge of the ancient world, and if all you remember about Greece and Rome was the shit you read in school or the movies you watched with Brad Pitt, it's not going to give you the most realistic thing. Now, we do have a problem. Back in the day when the Greek religions were predominant, or even the Roman religions were predominant, even though they had all these drinking things, they had all these drug activities and stuff, we're not allowed to bring it into Christianity. And Judaism, they've even talked about, rabbis have had these councils on whether they had psychedelics in the early days of Judaism or not. And a lot of them seem to be huge advocates. And I've seen full-blown tassels and Abe Lincoln hats buying weed at cannabis shops. I've seen that. So their religion doesn't shy away from almost this purist way of looking at the religion, But if you learned about this stuff first, and then you learn about Christianity, like I did, nothing that Amon says is crazy. But where we're having a problem with Amon and the scholars that, obviously
don't face him.
Well, we have friends who have had negative encounters with Amon. So even though I like Amon, he put a picture of me with makeup painted on it. Which I thought was very ironic, considering he and the rest of the blonde dragons that come on his channel are all dressing up like women, yet he's doing that to me to make fun of me.
It was like lipstick. It was like putting lipstick, I think it's something that I don't know. Actually, I'd have to go back and watch that. Yeah, putting lipstick on a pig kind of thing.
This is where it becomes dinner for schmucks, because if he's on me as a way to offend me, then all the guys coming on his channel wearing a blonde wig and lingerie, you're also part of the joke. He's just willing to do it to get you to do it too. Because
Well, I think it was the idea that like or that like he's painting up the idea that that it's, if we're going down that rabbit hole, or if we entertain the stuff that he's exposing, that we're perpetuating the problem that's been around for a few thousand years. And so we're being clowns. We're giving fodder to this thing that's been detrimental to civilization, the way it's viewed. So yeah, I get it. He strikes like a viper, man. Like, if he's going to strike you, you're going to get bit. And
so he did that to myself. And I don't know if he did
for sure.
And I'm cool with it. However, this is a show where guys dress up like women and come on to his show. So I just want people to understand. I know that there's an ancient, tradition with
the cult of Attis. The cult of Attis did that.
Yes, and and a bunch of other ones did too. I mean, even the Inari. They're another group from a different time, slightly over to the right, a little bit more Turkey. But it's the same thing. It's a dude dressed up like a female, worshiping a female goddess of some kind, and it's been done for years. However, in these traditions, there's the remorse that after you've done this to yourself, then there's the regret that comes afterwards. Sure. And this is all what makes this entire thing so interesting, because it's like, wait a minute. So y'all had a ritual that if you fell for it, you'd pay the price for the rest of your life, and even had.
Well, that's happening now.
Even back then, it had the same. Gotcha. It's like you can undo that. So there was an element to that back then, because a lot of these kids that would do that, they would regret it 3 days later. But now you got to live with it. You did. It's forever now. So So
What would you
doesn't talk about on the show, but
How do we know? How do we know they regretted it?
There's accounts.
All those articles that we read about the galley and the Inari and the Day of Blood and all that stuff. It was just
you could get caught up in
article
it.
that a few days later there was the Day of Regret or the Day of Remorse, and it was literally part of the same week of stuff where.
Well, imagine you're hopped up, dude. You go to a party and it's a big party and you're at P. Diddy's place, but you don't know it. And you're fucking like a teenager and there's just bowls of drugs everywhere and there's just things going on. And then all of a sudden you're like smoking crack cocaine. You don't even know it. Then all of a sudden you're doing this and all of a sudden you're doing that. And then you just have some kind of wild fear and loathing in Las Vegas time that maybe is like some partly transcendental, partly whatever else, but partly dark as fuck. Maybe you're in that party for 3 days. Yeah, and then you wake up and you're like, what the hell did I just get possessed by and do? Yeah, that would make sense. And if you did something physical to yourself, like, holy shit.
Well, we've seen this before in different movies, even in different contexts. So like the movie The Hangover, the guy had sex with a lady boy in Thailand, and the whole reveal the next day was that he's like, you mean sperm came out of my balls? And he goes, no, my balls. It's like, it's called Bangkok, honey. And he pulls his dress off and he's got a dick and balls. You know, so, and then there's also the tattoo that he got when he was too drunk. And
sure. Right. That's the Americana one. Like you get a tattoo when you're drunk.
Right. So this same aspect is this same concept has been, you know, done before. Now, here's the thing. It's not 100%. You know, there are people that wanted to do it, did it, and full blown have become clergy in whatever respective religion they had done this in, 100%. But from the article that I was reading, that they did say that there was a day of regret, a day of remorse, where you had to kind of come to terms with what you've done. And I can imagine even somebody who was really excited about it and even wanted to do it for years, 3 days later might feel a little different when they got the freaking Sindona wrapped around their balls. And they're in a lot, you know, and yeah, and I make a lot of jokes here, guys, you know, or whatever, but I'm just understand that, like, I got shit for bringing Gnostic Informant on my show. A guy that I look up to, a guy who, when I started getting the ideas for this channel and getting all the motivations behind, even some of the stuff that has to do with entheogens before I did them, came from Gnostic Informant's channel. He's in my book. I look up to this guy. I'm a rookie YouTuber. So I bring him on and I get slanderized or whatever word fits what happened there. And it was like, well, do you want to come on the show? And he doesn't even want to come on the show. And so all the fucking Ammonites are like, please have him on your show. Have him debate. Y'all got to fucking flood his email with Go on Witch Doctor's show, just like we did for him to get Danny Jones to release the freaking video of him earlier. Y'all have to flood his email to get him to come on. Not y'all, but everyone watching who is begging for him to come on. That's up to him. I've invited him numerous times. He doesn't want to. He doesn't.
Yeah. Well, what if instead of like a conflict relationship, it's like, hey, could I'd love to have you on to educate me on how I'm viewing this wrong and what you can show me, and then that way it's not so adversarial unless people want it to be that way. But as far as like debate people, I think he wants to face a gladiator and not face off like, you know, someone like Wes Huff. You know what I mean? He wants to face off to like sling that sword right into the heart of some of these people that are at the tippy top, because otherwise it's just another YouTuber that disappears, you know? Not you. That represents Christianity.
The Inari weren't eunuchs. They were just priests that played feminine gender roles.
The androgynous priests.
Yeah, they were male. They were male priests, but they enacted and dressed the female gender roles.
I wonder if they
right, which is whatever, man. I mean, right. That doesn't change the picture, though. That doesn't change the picture that when we grew up with Christianity, this wasn't even mentioned. That this was this was far from. In fact, they seem to be programmed to hate them these days, right? You know, so it doesn't change the fact. So like that's what I get to with like the age of the boy thing, where I'm all about like, oh yeah, nuance and like how can we expand this more or whatever else. But if if the nuance is used to then just act like the whole thing doesn't make
Or
sense, it's
whatever.
like, yo, that's not how it seems like this works, you know?
Well, I would love to
Would,
have him on.
are you there, Witch Doctor?
I would love to have him
Right,
on,
right.
for sure. For those that were asking, I totally
Yeah, no, it would be great. I would
Yeah,
love
yeah.
to have him on too.
I don't think he ever will. And not saying this is how he thinks, but
Well, he's pretty busy too, man.
well, yeah, I mean, for sure. But I will say this: if he gets invited on to Joe Rogan, something bigger than Danny Jones, he'll go. But I don't think he's going to go on a channel that has less than what Danny Jones had ever again. Maybe he will. Maybe he will. But it's going to have to be tackled they're going to have to be very naive, like the channel.
No, he's gone onto tiny channels. He did an interview with the guy that wrote. There's a guy that wrote an article about him. Ahmed Hillman is unstoppable. He went on that guy's channel. He's in the Discord. He's only got like 1,000
How
followers.
old is it?
It was after Danny Jones. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well,
It might not be though, but I'm pretty sure it is.
I was under the impression
because the article was written after he was on Danny Jones. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Well, and
yeah.
that might be. I mean, but that's where I keep trying to tell the Babylonians. I'm like, I've invited him back before and after he had a problem with me.
Yeah.
And that's up to him. If he wants to come on, he will.
I don't think he has a problem, but
yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I don't have any ill feelings towards him, even for the picture that he. I mean, I didn't ever see it. I never watched the episode, so I never saw it. Everyone told me about it, and I was like, oh, okay, well, fuck. I was like, sorry, I made
you gotta watch, dude. You gotta watch
on my show.
Yeah, you gotta watch Lightning Purple, dude. Like he's got a couple of them that are just like dedicated to that, and you'd love the information he's putting up there. It would like totally probably send us down, like, especially if you're doing this investigation of the portal, like, or Purple, a whole bunch of other investigative trails and stuff like that. So I definitely would check them out.
Watched
But
the last 4 episodes, so I need to catch up on the last 4. The Prophet Wars series he's doing is really good. That's my favorite stuff he's done so far.
yeah, oh yeah, it's nuts. Would you say, Witch Doctor, that like this would this be like tell me if this sounds like how you feel about it. Like, hey guys, I got news for you. Like, there's people out there that want you to shut up or will shut you down or will never like support what you're saying or whatever else. I'm not one of them. I mean, maybe I'm not going to jump in like hook, line, and sinker and just agree with everything or whatever else, but I'm into this shit too. Like, so I don't know why I'm the easy end. It's like low hanging fruit. It's like, like, I don't know why I'm the enemy because I'm the one telling them, like PTSD and doing psychedelics and shit, man. I'm on the page. Let's go.
Yeah. And well, I think what he liked before when he featured my stuff on his show was the fact that all I was doing at the time was making arguments in his favor. And then just slowly and by design, obviously there was a couple of discrepancies, which has become the only discrepancy here. Everybody listen up real quick. The only problem people from academia seem to really have with Amon is just his selection in definitions. There's a couple of times when his translation is completely wrong. One word, but it's for the most part, it's just the definition he chooses to use and the symbology he chooses to place. People don't agree with, and that's about it. Now, when we talk about the vagina drugs and how there's no vaginas mentioned in the Argonautica, and you're talking about the folds of her dress and her frock, those have
the harbor, baby.
Those have been used as references to vaginas, but in the context of what we were reading, perhaps not. But I think what pisses off academia or even just Christians who are educated is that he's making such a mockery of the religion in their eyes that it becomes offensive. And Amon knows that.
Yeah. That's the point. That's the point. He's a provocateur, right?
Yes.
But the other thing is too, there's not much. There's not much proof to the like ecumenic priesthood thing that he talks about. that I think people think he's making that whole
I
thing up.
don't think you're. I think you're stepping over your skis on that one. Watch the
Well,
last couple episodes, but
that's what
so
that's what the people are saying against him. Is what I'm saying.
okay, that's fine. That's fine, and I get that. So here's like I see everything you're saying, and then I'll just add to it by saying like the dynamic. So you know how I am. My brain focuses out on patterns. It's probably from being a visual thinker. It's a lot of things, right? So and I try to see something for what it is and how it functions. So Amon, they're like, so I like what you said there that they're saying that he selects certain definitions,
Yes.
and then he says that's the story and it's a provocateur and he's making a mockery of things and they don't like that. What I think is a little bit deeper than that is that the roots of these words and how they're used throughout the rest of antiquity is exactly that, and that the
Yes.
plot
100%.
points
100%.
are
I
exactly
agree.
like all the other plot points. So he's not just he is a. I get that he's provoking, but he's not a provocateur. He's shining a light on stuff to me. Like a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
provocateur to me, and maybe it's we're probably using different words, but a provocateur can just be someone who I just get online and I go, you know what about them purple people? And I just like start saying
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
out of my ass, right?
I
And
used the
he's
word.
not. If you
Yeah.
trace back, he's
I
not
should have
talking out
said
of his
that.
ass.
Yeah. Yeah. I shouldn't have used the word
No,
provocateur.
I
But
get it. I get it.
yeah. Yeah.
And
I
so
mean,
that's
and here's the respect though. The other way is that people who come out against him, none of them are making anywhere, not even close, not even a very like not even one or two that seem super solid to me. They're not proving that he's wrong about translating the ancient Greek because it turns out, as we saw with Bart, they don't read ancient Greek. They don't
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
how to read it. So now we're caught in a pickle here because they're making arguments from an authority position and then they're saying that they're right, but it seems like only one side is using the language and the history as their proof, and the other side is just saying, well, he's just mentally ill and he's painting a picture I don't like. And they don't seem to see that. I don't know if that makes any sense because you could easily go toe to toe with a lot of the stuff he's saying. Pick out just the story of Job or something and go toe to toe with the videos he made about that and see if you can show how he's somehow painted all these plot points wrong and all this other stuff and whatever else, and then show me that video. Like I'll be interested in that. But if you just get on there and then just talk about his character or say he's a cult guy or say he's this and both sides are equal, it's like I don't feel like they are. In like basic, back and forth slapstick insults, I get it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I think he's just doing something
And
different
there's so
sometimes.
much information to absorb from him. There's like 3 years of videos to watch to really get a grasp on what he's talking about at all. It's almost impossible for anyone to truly have the time to catch up to really debate him because anyone who's qualified to debate him has a career and a life to lead and a job and shit. Like they don't really have the time to
Sure.
absorb everything.
yeah, it takes a lot of
Sure.
research to
Yeah.
come at this at all. And there is only so much time in the day, and that's one thing that I noticed was like even in modern or like recent events or current events, is that you only got so much time that these guys got to make an episode about something before there's 15 episodes on it. Same with my channel. If I want to go do an episode on Mithras, I'm going to play videos from Myth Vision and Gnostic. I'm not going to go make my fucking own videos now on the same shit that there's 300 videos on YouTube describing. And I think after 3 or 4 or even 5 documentaries on Mithras, I think I got after growing up around Christianity, I totally got the narrative. I get it. You're never going to fucking tell me anything out of the Bible that I all of a sudden go, damn it, this is all true. It's never going to fucking happen. And that's where it becomes, we have atheists with PhDs that are history majors, whether they speak the Greek or not. And even what Bart Ehrman says, I kind of don't think it's that important. You can sit there and translate the shit. But the other day I had a conversation with somebody who his whole defense for his belief system is a lot of really smart people have studied this for a long time. And I was like, yeah. And just like anything else in the fucking world, you have 2 different medical or PhDs both disagreeing on something very, very adamantly. Huge disagreements with stuff that you would think is more even concrete. But when it comes to religion, we have an issue. Sometimes, you know, people that are Christians, if they study it a lot and memorize the Bible, there's this fake premise that it's going to be like more real. Now the chances of it being more real are greater. And then they think that what we're doing is the work of the devil, when really all we're doing is trying to show the truth, which God
figure it out. Yeah.
That no God would ever want the most sentient creatures on his planet or her planet to be, in my own personal opinion, I just don't think that any God would want you to sacrifice your intellect and your rationale.
Yes.
Just to feel cool.
Yes.
Because
Or joy. Yes.
Which goes into politics, which we don't do on my show. I had somebody the other day start babbling off about Trump and Epstein, and I was like, no. You have no fucking clue who I am and who I used to work for, and the shit that I could tell you that you'll never fucking know about those individuals that would unalive me. I'm done with politics. Worked for these motherfuckers for 4 or 5 years. I'm not doing it no more. And whoever, you know, for everybody that wants to say something against the party I worked for, I got stuff that you would love to know. But I can also say that, you know, say the same things for their own party or whatever.
Careful.
Don't do it. Don't do it. So, but with religion, it's a little different. But even though it does affect people's lives, it also doesn't. Like if starting tomorrow, you know, you magically found out somehow that, you know, that there wasn't a guy named Jesus, or at least there wasn't anybody that was an incarnation of a deity or anything like that, your life should be able to continue. However, we've made it to where now you have to have figured out metaphysics before you figure out the rest of your life. So if you have a big mark in your pie chart of you, if the little sliver that has religion on it is blank or has a question mark, to people who are religious, their Stockholm syndrome starts to take over and they can't help it.
Yeah.
Now they have a vulnerable mind, mind you, a vulnerable mind, a weakened mind that they go, oh, I can make this guy Christian. People have done it to me because they think I'm a fucking mouth breather. So it's like, oh, I can turn this guy Christian. He's a fucking moron. Just think about that statement real quick. I can make someone believe what I believe because he's stupid. Just think about that. Oh, we got a weak one here. Let's convert him the rest of the way. They're not even realizing that the method of thinking to even say something like that means that you yourself you doubt it so much down deep to the core. You really do not know. So you have to justify it by making other people believe the same shit that you do. Oh yeah, it's real, right? And they're surrounded by these people at these churches.
Yeah,
you know, growing
and
up.
the greed. It lends itself to greedy people.
I was the atheist that went to church and would ask these questions, and boy, they didn't fucking like that. Yeah. They don't want to have to work hard. They're a fucking youth minister. He chose this job because he couldn't do anything else with his life. Nothing else with his life he could have done. You're telling me he wanted to make $25,000 fucking dollars a year and deal with a bunch of kids whose parents won't take care of him? Because no, he doesn't want an atheist kid asking him these really tough questions, you know, or even these soft questions, like, well, how is Jesus real and not Hercules? Just as a youth minister hates that fucking question because he has to sit there and pretend that the Greeks were fucking insane and that Christians are not.
Right.
Or, you know, I love it when I go, yeah, I like Jesus. I believe in Jesus too, but I worship more of like the Hercules, you know, I worship the Achilles anointed ones from, you know,
I got a question.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm not talking about, because no one's done this yet, right? Everything we're doing with antiquity and the Abrahamic faiths is right on the tip of our tongue because it's so powerful in our minds and our culture, and it's still remnants. I'm convinced we're still coming out of the Dark Ages. That's just an opinion. However, when you, so I'll just start by like, when you meet a Buddhist, like a modern, like I don't know, you're at a coffee shop and you meet someone who's like a pretty hardcore Buddhist or something. Um, what is your like general impression of that person versus a Christian, like an evangelical, let's say, aggressive one, or a Mormon or something?
Well, it's the identical reaction to anything, to anyone. So if you are, and this brings me to another point, I'm glad you asked it. So if you're Middle Eastern and you show up to work and you're wearing a hijab or you're not, and you're a guy, whatever. If you're Middle Eastern and you say that you're Muslim, everyone's like, oh, absolutely. Assalamu alaikum. And they're trying to be respectful, even if they're Christians, trying to be respectful. Awesome, great. If a Buddhist walks in the room, says that they're a Buddhist or that they're Hindu or whatever like that, all the white Christians in the room, oh, it's so nice to meet you, so great. Now, they might talk shit about them like they did with, what was that guy who ran for president? He ran as a Republican, and he prayed to God one night, and some Christian kid stood up and said, now, are you praying to your God or to our God? Because there's only one God. And he went
Jesus Christ
on the fucking guy. He was like, whoa, what the fuck? So nobody questions them. And then, of course, if I was a Jew, even if I didn't have any of the features, I could lie, but ain't nobody going to believe me with this fucking nose. There is a Jewish version of my last name called Bleckman, Blecchman, and the owner of Muscle and Fitness's last name is Bleckman, and his first name is Steve. So as a muscle and strength guy, whenever I'd introduce myself to people, say, I'm Steve Bleckman, they're like, are you Steve's son? Like from Muscle and Fitness? I'm like, no, who the fuck are you talking about? And that's how I even learned who the guy was. But the Jews, so if I said to a bunch of Christians, oh, yeah, I'm Jewish. Like, oh, so beautiful, so beautiful. Where is your family from? Where's your this? Where's your that? Blah, 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 blah. Where the,
okay, what about how they interact with you? So the thing I'm interested in is when you meet Buddhists on average, so, I know that this is not an absolute, do you feel the pressure that Buddhist is trying to convert you to this thing that they call Buddhism?
With Buddhism,
Mm-hmm.
I will transparently say I have never had a Buddhist come up to me and us even have any religious conversations really at all.
Copy. Okay.
I've met friends who are Buddhists, and they never really seem to be trying to recruit anyone. But I do have a second to that answer. And
yeah, they can be. I mean, you can meet personalities that whatever they're in, they're going to try to force it on you, right? They're kind of tyrannical on their own,
even if it's passively.
But the religion itself, which is, I don't know, it depends on how deep you go into it, Zen Buddhism or whatever else, it's not a religion at all. It's like
it's a way
of life or whatever. So there's no conversion in there, right? So I think that's a really specific, like,
you can be a Buddhist and a Christian, supposedly.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a way of life, right? And then like all the Buddhist stories are koans. They're stories without answers, and they get you to think. And like the Zen teachers and the stories are typically like when someone goes, like comes in and says, "Oh, I'm looking for enlightenment," and then they just laugh at them. Like, what are you looking for? They say there's enlightenment. Oh, what is that? Right. So they're actually kind of almost satirizing this idea that you're on some kind of quest for, like you talked about, the metaphysical enlightenment, or people feel like they have to know that. And so where like that desire is interestingly positioned in our culture right now, where we're like conditioned to believe we have to know the answer. We have to know that absolute answer. And I feel like it comes from the Abrahamic faiths because that's what they sell. Like, if that makes any sense. So if I don't believe their absolute answer, but I'm still in that pattern, that cognitive pattern, well, it's like, well, there's got to be another answer. It's atheism, or it's this, or it's that, or I got to be this. I got to put on an identity. I got to, you know what I mean? And that, like, it's like an endless cycle of you just shifting identities your whole life, when the real reality is the divinity was inside you the whole time, like if you're looking or whatever else. But there's something really specific about the Abrahamic faith that I think makes it so contentious in society. And I know there's other cults that can be recruitive. It seems to be usually when it's related to some kind of greed-based cult or self-help kind of weird stuff. But just that model in general, I think, should speak volumes to the religion you're adhering yourself to, That's like seems to be what it's kind of designed to do. So it positions itself as like we just want to know the truth. But the real position seems to be we want to convert and destroy everybody else who doesn't think the way we think. And get, yeah,
There is
so.
something I do want to add, and I do want to say it on camera before I go. And it kind of piggybacks off of what I was saying a minute ago about the Muslim walks in the room. If he's Middle Eastern, you know, and he's been a Muslim his whole life, you know, everyone shakes his hand and kisses his ass because they want to be, you know, if it's not condescending, half the time they just want to be they just want to be peaceful and set an example for accepting others, right? And if the Buddhist walks in and he's from the East, you know, and whatever country, but, you know, there's a few that sort of predominantly have them, a lot of them. And that would be fine too, to any Christian or even any Jew in the room, you know, or even in all respects, even a Muslim would, I guess, you know, oh, cool, you're Buddhist because you're from India or something, you know, hey, congratulations. They might still want to kill you because their book said they could, but, you know. So one thing that I've ran into is that this guy right here, a lot of people look at me as sort of an innocent barbarian. And so that should be a little coined phrase that we innocent barbarians. And so when people meet me, they meet the charismatic personality, typically always smiling and being all full of the nice things and whatnot. And then they hear that I'm an atheist, or they used to. I'm not really an atheist anymore, but I'm definitely not any religion. It still doesn't make them happy, right?
Yes.
And then it's like, hold on a minute.
Yes. Yep.
How dare you not be a Christian? You would be the perfect poster boy for this religion, and you're not, which means you must be a piece of shit, rebellious young man, which ironically is exactly what the fuck Jesus was in the first place. However, if I was Middle Eastern, they would never give me shit for being Muslim. If I was Indian, they'd never give me shit for being Buddhist. If I was a fucking Jew, they would never give me shit for being a fucking Jew, all right? But the second that a white Caucasian boy from the suburbs says he's not a Christian to other Christians, they fucking gather around you in a semicircle and try to go to the fucking head with their bullshit profound experiences, saying that they've seen God and God's interacted in their life because they were broke one day and they got a paycheck and were able to go buy food or something. It's the stupidest, most shallow fucking profound experiences that they typically bring up. And sometimes they even have a hard time telling the stories because as they're telling the stories, they realize how stupid it sounds. Like, I had a Christian try to corner me and be like, well, we felt the Holy Spirit at church one time. And I was like, okay, tell me the story. The girl starts crying because she had never told the story before, but she was mainly crying because she realized that as she was telling the story, she sounded like a fucking moron. It's not even like the lights flickered when somebody said a prayer. It's like the stupidest thing, like, oh, she told me things about myself that she could have never known. I was like, except for the fact that it's written all over your face, just standing there, I can tell you what kind of person you are. I was like, and you know, these older people taking advantage of these younger people and brainwashing them into believing something just so that they can believe it more themselves. That's what I experienced growing up as an atheist. And every time I'd have these debates with people, even family members, it never ended well. It never ended in a way where both parties were happy or anything. Fast forward to now I've done psychedelics. Now I've seen God. I've seen a black lady. And I even saw Jesus, but he was feminine as shit. And there was no mistaking that. And so I mentioned this to my relatives, thinking that they're going to be so excited that I'm not an atheist anymore. But when I said I wasn't a Christian, it confused them again. And it was like, no, like I believe in a higher power and another dimension for all intents and purposes because I've seen it now.
Yes.
But you're not a Christian though. And I'm like, no, because that whole story is fucking made up. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, so it was like they couldn't even be proud of me for not being an atheist anymore because I still wasn't their religion yet. And it was like, no. I skipped a step. Said, y'all are still stuck at the third rung. I'm on the fourth and fifth rung now. So it doesn't make sense to you now because you haven't woken up yet. Said you're still in the elementary school phase of this religion where you believe it all to be fact, and you don't take away all of the things that just culturally the people in the society within them that you just align up with more. So like I said at the time, I'll fight a Christian war, but I won't fight for Jews and I won't fight for Islam. Sorry. But I'll contract to fight alongside Christians.
Why is that? Just a question.
Well, it's just a joke, but in this sort of way, the Jews will never accept me as a Jew no matter what. I even asked them, I said, if I convert to Judaism, at the time I was dating a Brazilian Jewish person, and I said, if I convert when I get married and stuff, and I get my daughter up here, can she come to this school where I was doing security at? And the lady, in between saying verses in Hebrew on the radio, said, we have an unorthodox school down the street. And I was like, so y'all will take people's money, but you won't actually consider them Jews. Ironically, half the kids at this school were as European as they fucking get, red hair and everything. Like, yeah, you're really Jewish, huh? Ashkenazi. Yeah. It's like, you're not from any Jewish fucking blood at all. And that's why, anyway, but they've been brought into the religion and they're God's special people, and very condescendingly and passively, they are brainwashing their kids to learn this very narrow field of study as fact. And they train their kids I was at an elementary school, from first grade till when they're an adult. They train them to think that everyone else is below them and that they are a chosen bloodline. I mean, look, I get it. Someone's got to convince these Jewish women to reproduce with these dudes. There's got to be.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean,
no, I mean, I think you're talking about something that's inherent in the Abrahamic faiths in general, of how the structure works. It's the truth, our divinity, or evil and death. You're either this or that. You know what I mean? And so like someone in the middle or someone who's like themselves is almost a threat. Like, oh my God, like, what do you mean you are connected to some kind of God, or you feel like you met a God or whatever else, but it's not my God. My God's the absolute God. You need to be saved, or you're bad. Something's wrong with you. You might have met a fucking demon or something. And they're the only ones that think like that. The Abrahamic faith. It's weird.
Yeah. And there's only so many really to choose from that are on the plate. We have 3 Abrahamic religions that are the predominant ones of the earth right now. And we have a couple of other ones that have been around a while that are sort of scattered around. Buddhism's, there, and Zoroastrianism is still alive and well. It's just that it's dwindling by the year because you have to be born into it. And even though you can convert to Zoroastrianism, no one's really doing that. No one's really doing that kind of conversion. Now, my wife's brother, I should say sister, she's trans, became a Jew. Mm-hmm. And I'm just a little confused as to how this happens. Jews have male and female gender roles and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But they'll still take your money every Saturday, and they'll still let you come and take chants and stuff like that. But they don't really think that anybody, especially from that group of people, they're never going to accept them as actual Jews. That's just never going to happen. And then to piggyback that, let's say that a Muslim country was contracting to fight Israel, right? And let's say I could contract with them to fight Israel. I would have to have some reason to be united with the Muslims, right? So let's say that my perspective was Judaism is a lie, and we want to end it so that we can end all the religions. Well, that would be something I could get behind. But the problem is you're going to contract with Muslims to remove Judaism, but then you have to be Muslim.
Put the same structure in there.
Next, so you can help them fight the war.
No, it's the chosen. It's the same inherent. Yeah, it's like a tyrannical system.
The reason why I get along with the idea that I can fight alongside Christians is because I did have an experience with them where I was deployed, and yes, they wrapped their arms around me in the prayer and pulled me into it and started praying to Jesus and God and everything because we were about to die. And they had watched me sit out of how many prayers before going out the wire? At least 100, if not 200 times. And before you roll out the wire, you know, you got all the trucks lined up and you're going from somewhere that's semi-safe, the fob that you live on, to out in the Wild West. So typically the second you leave the wire, you can get blown up or start getting in firefights just the second you leave the wire, you know. So before they leave, they do a prayer, just like before a football game or something. They do a prayer, right? And so they're huddled up before every single mission. And this, every single time, the atheists, while they're praying, are all looking at each other like, oh, hi. Hi. Yeah, I hope we don't die today. Hey, oh, hey, another atheist on the other side of, you know, we're all just kind of dispersed away from the crowd that's praying. But even after sitting out of all these prayers, and they know, they see me not in the prayer every day for, you know, 150 missions or so. I'll just leave it there. It's probably more, but whatever. And so even after watching me not participate, and I'm sure a Muslim guy would do this too, and I'm sure a Jew would do this too, but they pulled me in.
Good people, you know.
Draped
Good people are not just the beliefs.
We were all trying to cover each other up from the ceiling falling in, which it was. And mortars were kind of shaking shit loose, and ceiling. We were pulling guys out from underneath the fucking ceiling tiles and stuff. They huddled up with me and, you know, prayed for me and everything like that. And we walked out of that building, but it wasn't like it wasn't anything too much like a divine intervention. It was just a coincidence that we didn't die. And we happened to have that prayer moment right there in the middle of it, which that doesn't happen a lot unless you're about to die. Soldiers bleeding out on the battlefield, they crying for their mom, or they're praying, one of the two. And so I've had that experience and grown up in a culture of Christians. And the way that I say that statement, I'll contract and fight a war with anyone as long as there's something in it for me, which for me would be just the war in general, being in the war, kind of an Achilles way of looking at things. But I guess it's not a very accurate statement though, because I would contract for anyone that's doing something that would benefit the desire and the time at the time, if that makes sense. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Interesting. I
missed what you guys were talking about. I was making food, so.
Yeah, no, he's I think yeah, we were just exploring there. I think he was exploring his own position as he was talking, which is really important because, you know, just like you mentioned earlier, when somebody tell stories until you talk out loud, you don't really know kind of how you feel about it. But
I usually think out loud and try not to set things in stone for sure. Yeah.
So let me see if I can. Which doctor are you back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see if I can express, I guess, kind of how I view or what I took away from that a little bit. Would you say, like, when you say I'd fight along somebody that think, you know, obviously contracting involves transaction, right? But you wouldn't want to go fight. Just you're not like a psychopathic. I'll just kill babies if you pay me enough, right? You're not that. So would you say it's more for like? And you mentioned like, oh, if I was fighting along Muslims, but the point of the war was to get rid of all of the organized religions, then that would be cool, right?
In a
vague way
scenario, yeah.
Yes,
anything that would end the wars or end the religions. As a fiction way of looking at stuff, I'd be a contractor in that battle. Yeah. Let me make it clear when I'm talking, and whoever's whatever else, no one in here is talking about their dedication to some religion or faith to go into a holy war. We're just talking in dynamics here. So, would you say it's safe to assume that like it's liberty that you're fighting for? Right? I'll fight next to anybody who is fighting to quell something that provides liberty for the future and what we call prosperity or opportunity
No, there's other things, and you can be any faith. You could be any faith, but if we're toe to toe, and our point is to fight against something and have fun, right? If you're a warrior, man, like that's fun. I hate to say it for some people, like, hey, man, we're all built for different things, and I know that there can be pros and cons to that, just like pros and cons to everything. But we're also a war species as much as we're a loving species too. So, like, that would you say that kind of fits the bill? That if you're fighting for something that's like liberty, freedom, or some kind of thing like that, that jazzes you up more, and you're okay fighting next to whoever the faith is next to you.
Okay, so there's two things here. All right, so I am a civil affairs specialist from the United States Army. It's a special operations job, and that's in conjunction with psychological operations. It used to be a special forces job, but now they have branched it off to be its own MOS. What we do is wherever there are people in need who are suffering, that's where we go. So even though I wasn't going to talk about this on the channel, I'll talk about it because it's obviously been delayed. Me and Marcel and yourself were about to go to Afghanistan to help out with the Chinese takeover of Afghanistan. But then the mission switched to Palestine, where the contracting jobs that were being presented are now shifting from Afghanistan, as you can imagine, to Gaza. And so we have a lot of friends who have been collecting money to send to Gaza, but I was going to go to Gaza myself. And I arguably still could and still, will, if I can let my wife let me go do it. But so because there's people in need that are being manipulated by an overly overreaching group of people. Now here's the thing though. Palestinians, we do have Islam floating around there, but if they weren't Islamic, they would still be doing this to the people there. And arguably Muslim countries would still be doing that to people in other countries as well, okay? In this particular scenario, I feel really bad for the people of Palestine because you have this religion that runs the world with their financial system, paying the Gentiles to come and do the dirty work for them. So in this situation, I would be the guy fighting against my own dudes because my own dudes would be gearing up to go help Israel with whatever narrative they've created about Palestine and Gaza. And they'd be going along with that narrative to then go and kill more Palestinians because of some reason that they need to. They want to get more land, And, Islam's the third religion of these Abrahamic religions, so it doesn't really get you out the woods too quick. But I would want to help the Palestinians in this particular scenario, right?
Yeah. You're helping people that are under some kind of tyranny as opposed to I'm helping a religion. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. And then there's also the aspect of the family I come from and the genetics that I am built out of is I am built and bred for that. Just like in Superman, how Zod says, I have been bred for this. My DNA is crafted for this. You're fucking with the wrong guy, pretty much. Yeah. And even though this is insanely arrogant to say, it would be the opportunity to whoop people's asses and be fully engulfed in that righteously in the moment because it's a high that you cannot get in other places. So like, for example, I do armed security, executive protection type stuff. You're not supposed to do certain things or act a certain way, but it still happens. So like when I was a bouncer, I was insanely addicted to getting in fights and to be violent and to whoop people's asses. Now, the average man for $75 a night is not going to go do this, but this gave me an opportunity and an outlet to take all my anger and rage out on the drunken population of Charlotte, North Carolina. So working at a Coke where everyone's hopped up on Mountain Dew and alcohol, if it was time to go, I was just praying that they wanted to make it hard because I was going to beat the fucking shit out of everybody. and hope that no one else got the bright idea to do the same thing, you know. And that's not a good quality in myself. It's sort of an aggressive quality that I don't think everybody loves, especially on the left side of the house. You have less of those hyper aggressive type figures, but I can't help the way that I'm built.
Yeah.
So if anyone in the
would
group,
you say like,
go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, sorry to interrupt you, brother. What I was going to say was, still, even in that dynamic, even though it sounds bad, right? That's coming under the lens of violence is absolutely bad, right? Well, we know that's not true, right? Because what's going to happen when someone's trying to do something terrible to a child? Well, someone's going to be violent to stop that, right? So
Right.
that might be that urge, though. I'm praying for someone to not want to go. Like, what do you like? Meaning, like, you're built to face off with people who break the rules, right? You're built
Yeah.
to be like, hey, man, everything's cool, but if you're gonna be a fucking asshole and you're gonna whatever else, now the curtain's coming down. Like, I'm gonna make sure that you know you can't just do whatever the hell you want. So I don't know if that's like, as negative as you would paint it. It would just depend on where you direct it and how possessed you'd become, because you wouldn't want to let that like wash over into people that didn't deserve it. But people who deserve it, it's like,
Yeah.
let's go. I'm your guy. You're
Yeah.
ready to meet your maker. Like, for just, you've been walking all over people. You've been whatever else. That's justice, man. That's like a justice gene. You're built for that. I think that's great, right? You just gotta, I guess you just work on not maybe taking justice out on the Circle K clerk when they
Yeah.
when people lose their tempers.
And not trying to be Batman in my spare time and
Mm-hmm.
getting involved with crime from a position of non-authority and whatever. But
Yeah.
I know that I am attracted to the violence a little bit. And yes, it would be a way to engulf myself in glory. It's hard to describe that to people, but I have a family now. And back in the day when I didn't have a family, it was a little bit different. But now that I'm not an atheist, I have this urge to do things like that again, which is why I am in a field where there is your very basic bouncing or even armed security stuff. But then there's the more advanced, like Emperor's Guards with your fucking suits and all that stuff. And then if you go even further from there, there's contracting opportunities in other countries where you are going to get into the shit. And being in the security world allows you to still have those things on the horizon if you want to, or if you feel different in the future and you want to go back overseas and you want to make that money. And there is a little bit of it would have to do with the money, because obviously I'm not going to go to Palestine for free, but I'll go for, a contractor's wage and I'll help the people in Palestine for sure. The only problem is that once again, you have people calling the shots and how you help them. So if I go rogue in Israel and I start offing, hypothetically, this is all fiction. I'm not even joking about doing this, but let's just say somebody was let loose on the streets of Israel. It's not going to work. You know what I mean? It's just not, you can't, those are things you see in movies and stuff, but just the desire to want to go help people is where it all stems from. And
yes, that's what I was getting at. Absolutely, dude.
Fully engulfed in the violence is another half of it too. I hate to say it.
Well, yeah, that's like it's it's the sheepdog mindset. Like it's necessary. Like if you go, it's in nature. If you go on a farm, you better have you have your animal friends and your neighbors or whatever. But everybody has a purpose, right? And there's a purpose to keeping out a greedy coyote or a wolf or something else like that, because if that disrupts your supply chain, everybody dies. And so it's a necessary part in nature. So I think that's a good quality.
Well, it's every once in a while, we see it in politics. In order to, we see it with Lady Babylon. Here you go. If you don't like Lady Babylon because he's a narcissist or arrogant or whatever the things, you got to send in somebody that's just as bad or worse, which is me. to go and tackle this thing, because some people might not have the balls to do that. You know, like all these dirty politicians. Well, if you send in another guy who's a junkyard dog that knows how to handle these dudes because he's been doing it his whole life, that could have a benefit, unless of course he gets bought out, and then it doesn't matter. So I guess my perspective is I'm a very lewd character, and if anyone's gonna need a case of the ass or need an ass whooping in this metaphysical sort of joking sense that we're making things, that's obviously my personality a little bit, you know, and I'm a little brash or abrasive sometimes, but ultimately I'm still fighting for everybody to still believe in what they believe. I just choose to make fun of some of the stuff that I don't believe in and entertain more realistic interpretations of these said religions or whatever. But I don't really have that good of a place though. Like we are sort of kind of feeling out where this channel's going. And it started out being very pro Babylon. And once I started talking about where he was wrong, which has been the whole time, like with Hebrew Greek origins of the Old Testament, that's been in my material since the book was written. But people didn't watch all the videos right away. So eventually when the page got popular, people would go back and watch old videos, and then they would discover that I didn't agree with something from Babylon. And then they'd have a problem. I lose the subscriber. They comment and shit in my comments a little bit. And then that would be the end of it. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where I've left this off, is that my page grew to like 1,500, 20 people. And it's gone down to about 1,500. I've lost about 20, 30 people since I guess they've discovered I didn't just make an Amon 2.0 channel. Is I've lost
you don't have to. You don't. Yeah, I would just say no one needs to be pro anybody. I mean pro language, you know.
Yeah.
Pro like however, what's going on. Let's dig into that instead of just
not opening up those.
Right.
Oh. No, Marcel's talking to me. I'll talk about that later. But no, this conversation's really opened up a bunch. Of course, I would hate to talk about myself the whole time, because then I'm just rambling on about myself. But I'm getting ready to leave, so I'm going to need to power this down. This was a 2-hour and 30-minute episode anyway, so we have a lot of good stuff here. It started out with some religious belief by Robert Sapolsky's Human Behavioral Biology. Then we went into some other stuff about our beliefs and what we deal with, what I've dealt with, I guess, and how I've been treated. Even if you tell people you're not an atheist anymore, if you're not their religion, they still don't care. Even though it's such a breakthrough for an atheist to go from not believing in any of that to believing in it, you know, at least in the zoomed out version of it. And you would think they'd be like, "Oh man, I'm so proud of you." Like, nope. Nope.
I mean, the thing I would add is losing 30 fanatics in the long run doesn't really mean anything. Yeah, you gotta play the long game and not worry about the short game, right? It's like if a bar analyzed every minute of their sales, they would go insane, as opposed to looking at the days that make up for the days they didn't make any money. You know what I mean? Like
it's like the stock market.
You gotta look at the whole month rather than the one day.
Right.
You get what I mean?
Yeah. Another thing I want to add is, like, I think there's something really peculiar about all of us, right? Getting up here and picking apart Amon specifically, right? None of us translate ancient Greek, brah. Like, so it's kind of arrogant that we all step into the arena and go, he's wrong about that and whatever else. And so that, and not to say that it's not saying who's right or wrong or whatever else, but this seems strange that, like, in his whole journey, it's very rarely that someone wants to step up and translate the ancient Greek and read the Greek sources, not just the sources from their thing, but all the sources that he's referencing and all that other stuff, and then bring that argument to him, and then say, okay, you know, I can follow you. or whatever else, he might, it might be something where he's like exhausted by that, where, which might be better if we're able to, if he's able, wants to be interviewed by y'all, like, or just Witch Doctor, just to be like to learn, just to be like, okay, let me learn your perspective. Let me ask the questions that we don't have to be on opposing sides, because all of us seem to be in this direction of the whole door's been opened about how culture possibly worked in drugs and antiquity and all of that stuff. And it's fucking amazing. It's brilliant. It's like, so it's all the good, it's all the bad, it's everything. But it's really, really, I mean, like, would just be incredible to think what the next generation could do starting up on the next rung, whereas opposed to starting where we started. So maybe that approach might be more helpful than, like, everyone has to say, every time they mention them, we all have to do like, well, I agree with this, but I don't agree with this, but I agree with this. It's like, whatever. Like, is the whole picture lining up in the same direction? Because that means we're on the same boat. And if we start fighting with each other, like, there's other things that are trying to shut all of us down, or trying to say none of this is accurate at all, and like whatever else. And then none of those people are standing on the language or whatever else. They're standing on the fairy tale, and they're standing on commentary, and they're doing what Wes Huff's doing. And that's coming real hard, you know what I mean? So I just like the idea of that angle. And then the wrestling can go back and forth, like the people calling each other out and stuff like that. That's fun, for sure. But yeah, there's that other side of it where it's like, I don't know, the acknowledgement and respect I think that he deserves for sticking his neck out the way he has, for creating this thing that we can all
100%.
experience. Yeah, and he is obsessed
He's been
with the
sticking
language,
to his
bro.
guns for the last since 2000. Like, there's interviews with Amon from 2010 where he's still saying the same stuff. So it's there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Oh damn it! I like you give the guy credit for sticking to his guns for so long. I wanted a better word than credit.
Well,
but
That's what I've said.
Well,
too.
imagine if I went up to you, Witch Doctor, and I started telling you all the stuff that you're wrong with bodybuilding, and that's how I started talking to you. You think that I'm probably going to talk myself into a real fucking bad corner because I don't know shit about jack with bodybuilding stuff? You better believe I'm going to, and not even know it. But then I walk around real arrogantly being like, well, he's wrong. Witch Doctor's wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I totally get that, for sure. And that's where my channel, it started out as a very neutral position. And I was arguing in favor of a lot of the stuff that he was saying, and I still do 100%. Yeah. Now there's some stuff that's been retracted. Oh, yeah. Just a little bit. And it's only because, in respect to academia and the people that we've had come on the show, it's like, well, it doesn't really say a lot about the snakes. So all we can really do is do what the Pentecostal church did and take that a step further, and that's, But
okay.
Coming
it sparks me. We got to do an episode on snakes, by the way. Sorry, I'm just interrupting real quick. We got to do an episode on snakes. I love that you said that. Now keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, we definitely should. And there's a bunch of different ones that people use nowadays that do the self-injection bullshit. Not a lot of people, but like Steve Ludwig from Vice. I covered him on an old PowerPoint, and a couple of other snake handlers that they always look great, and they live to be 100. Now, mind you, they might be doing a bunch of other stuff that's good for them too, but something about them fighting off this toxin in small amounts their whole life might have some sort of epigenetic advantage that we would never even think of, But imagine if we found out a miracle to living to be 100 would be an administration of a toxin from a snake venom. Can you imagine how insane that would be? Amazing. Make people live longer. So even though you can't get high off the snake venom, and people that have done snake venom talk about it feeling like an adrenaline rush, but not a high, maybe that was something that was added to, but we would have to see the ingredients. We would have to see. So I've done the academic correction where it's needed, but where it's not needed, I'm still letting the old cultural surrounding things fly, because after all, that is the version of history that I would rather it be true, is from the Babylon perspective. And that's why everyone that watches this show is either an atheist, a former atheist, a psychonaut, a former Christian. and they're all the, we're the bad kids, so we all show up, and what do bad kids do? Well, they fight with each other.
It's a pretty good point.
It's like Christians fight over their denominations and which books and scriptures that they need to use, or even killing people for making their own Bibles in their own languages, and not wanting to feed the beast the whole time. It definitely has had its really, really negative history. And so, it's cheap to ask these things, but in all reality, what has Christianity really done for the world? I know they're great, but all did the people in South America deserve to get the bottoms of their feet cut off and the bottoms of their ass cheeks cut off because they didn't want to conform to your religion or mine rubber out of the Amazon? And what about the Native Americans, like Tiger Shark's great grandma,
yes,
who was put into a boarding school, and they had Christianity shoved down their throat?
Yes,
and there's so much murder and stuff has come from it, and it's this oh, God wills it, all this bullshit that unfortunately my family's the one that pays the price. We're the ones that keep joining the army and going to these wars that have these semi-religious, semi-financial, political endeavors with return on investment. And we have always been the ones who have gone and fought the wars. I'm probably the first generation though of any of my family on all four grandparents. I'm more than likely the first atheist in the whole bunch, but atheism is with the dash of something else, because I do believe that there's something else out there, but it's just unquantifiable. So that's where I leave my mystery with everybody. It's like, no, I can't tell you all the secrets to the universe. That's the thing, is that it's so vast and there's so much there, and there's so many ways you can even try to see a little bit of it. It'd be anybody that sits from a perspective kind of like that weird shaman guy that went on Danny Jones, who was like, oh, only I can see these kinds of things when I go to the other realm. It's like, congratulations, you just did what all the priestly classes was. You had something that has extreme value, intangible product, and then you get away from everybody else, and only you can do this now. So it's, what good was it the whole time? It's like, you bring on a DMT expert, and ultimately he tells you don't bother because you're not me. And it's like, no. You just ruined it. You just ruined the whole thing, or you made it look like you as the advocate, or you as you're the representative for DMT, and you just came across as super arrogant. I thought this stuff was supposed to melt your ego, not harden it and make it more and come from a position of authority or anything. But I have asked people that are Christians, like, have you seen God? And they go, no. And I go, well, I have. Well, that's the same thing too. I'm doing the same exact thing he's doing by saying, I've seen God and you haven't, so everything you're saying is bullshit. That's bullshit too. But guys, let's go ahead and cut it there. It's been a great episode. I'm not even going to do a sign off or anything. Actually, Chase, I'll let you say something if you want to.
Oh man, no, just hey everybody, stay wonders. Keep reading, keep learning. Show me something new. Man, it's cool.
Hell yeah. We'll see you guys soon. If you didn't watch the live streams earlier, go ahead and check them out. They had some really good videos in them, and they turned out pretty good. So go check them out, guys. We'll see y'all soon.